Surely this isn't the place. I know an ashram when I see one.
No, madam. This is famous bull temple. All tourists come to this.
I am not a tourist.
It is very old. You can see the statue of great big bull of Shiva. Very big.
I want to go to the ashram. I am not here to waste my time looking at your bulls. Can you understand that?
Not my bulls. I am a Muslim. This is a very sacred bull. The vehicle of God Shiva himself.
Oh, Bill, if it makes a difference to you. But after I see the bull, we go straight to the ashram. Is that clear?
Yes, madam.
Cross your heart. Or swear by the big bull. Oh, never mind. What am I to do with Winston?
Oh, leave the dog in the car.
Nonsense. I never go anywhere without Winston. Tell all these people to go away. Winston is very sensitive to noise.
They have never seen a dog like this before. Give the dog to me, madam. I will take him for a walk. Give him to me.
No! Oh, dear. Here, hold on to this end of the leash. Now, Winston, I know you don't like the leash, but... Oh! Winston! Oh! Winston!
Dear madam.
The Swami and Winston by Mahesh Dattani, with Priyanka Ilan as Uma Rao and Shiv Grewal as Constable Munswami. The Swami and Winston.
How are you, Constable Munswami? Would you like some breakfast?
Madam, please help me, madam.
What is the matter? Are you unwell?
I have to find a dog. Help me, madam.
I will pour you some coffee and you can explain it to me.
I have to find her dog in 24 hours, or else sir will get me transferred to some village. I tell you, her driver only must have done some mischief. What am I to do?
Constable Munswami.
Sir.
Have some idlis, drink your coffee, then explain everything to me properly. And remember, you are not to tell my husband I'm helping you out.
Continues to rain like this, the roads will be flooded again.
Lady Caroline Montefiore. Quite an impressive background.
You know who she is?
A wealthy woman, even by European standards. I spent some time after class searching the web for information on her. There are quite a few news articles.
I cannot understand what she is saying. She cries as if she has lost her child.
Indeed. She has.
What am I to do? I shall never see my Winston again.
I am sure Winston wouldn't want to be separated from you for very long.
You do see that, don't you? If it weren't for those temple bells and those crowds making my poor Winston nervous, I am not leaving this country without my Winston. That's certain. What did you say your name was?
Uma Rao. My husband is the superintendent at the police station where you made your complaint.
Tell me something. What do you think of this person, or the Swami, or whatever they're called, Jivananda?
Oh, I believe he's a great spiritual leader. Why do you ask?
How long does it take to find a King Charles Spaniel in this city? Do you think it will help to offer some money?
I don't think that will be necessary. You don't want people to think the dog is valuable, do you?
He is. He's priceless.
Yes, but you don't want people to know that, do you?
I am offering a reward of £5,000.
Oh, I would strongly advise you not to do such a thing. By all means, give your money to whoever finds him, but don't announce a reward.
Nonsense. Nobody will do anything unless there's some money in it for them. And Charles is too silly to realise that.
Charles?
Young lady, I am off to the Bull Temple. Not that I believe in praying to bulls, but that's where I lost my Winston. Oh, there is the driver person. Hello! Let's go!
Oh, madam. Shall I take you to the ashram? A big ashram?
Not the ashram, to the Bull Temple. Take me to the Bull Temple.
£5,000? How much is that in rupees?
Multiply that by 72.
Yes, 7 into 5. Over 3.5 lakhs to find a dog.
Well, if you find it, the money is yours.
Then I don't have to worry about my daughter's marriage.
You don't have a daughter, Munswami.
But still. Hello, madam. She found the dog. I am near the hotel. So many people here with all sorts of animals, pigs, cats, goats, all wanting to sell to our English lady. She has gone to this farm near the Bull Temple. A man called the hotel today and gave the number on the dog's collar. It's okay, madam. It was not in my luck. Let someone else have the money. I tell you that money will only bring bad luck.
We shall soon be out of this mess. Did you miss me? Oh, I can't see a thing. How long do you think this dreadful rain will last?
We should not have gone to the ashram today itself, madam.
I simply had to sort out this business. Thank God we found Winston in time. Oh, Winston! Don't you ever run away like that again.
The road is like a river.
Well, we'll just drive slowly and surely back to the hotel, and there's a nice tip waiting for you, young man.
Did we turn this way? Or this way?
Are you asking me for directions?
No, madam. I am only asking which way to go. I'm asking myself only.
Why don't you just stop and ask some nice people somewhere out there?
Who is there to ask in this rain?
Well, I thought there was a car behind us. Why don't you stop for a while so they can catch up with us?
Oh, don't worry, madam. The Bull Temple is not far. We will ask there.
Just the place I want to be in this weather.
Oh, don't worry, madam. I will take you to Bull Temple tomorrow also.
That's what you think.
Oh.
Now what?
The engine is overheated.
Never heard of such a thing. In this rain?
The fan belt is broken. Oh, behind! Oh,
Dear.
Oh, madam, don't worry. I will get a mechanic near the Bull Temple.
What do you want me to do in the meantime? Knit a jumper?
A good idea.
You can't leave me here.
What can I do?
How long do you think you'll be gone?
Only 5 minutes.
You can't possibly walk to that temple and return in 5 minutes. Can't we stop a car or something?
Madam, who will stop in this rain? Don't worry. I will lock the car and you do not open your door for anyone. Just for 5 minutes.
Oh, Winston, what are we to do?
Madam, it is wet outside. Please, listen to me.
Oh, well, but do hurry.
I am locking the door now, madam.
Oh, all right. Good luck. Nothing seems to be going right for us, Winston. I am sorry, but you just have to wait. We've run out of them. See? No biggies. No more till we get back home. Oh, how in the world? Thank God. I can't hear you. Wait. Let me... Oh, how do you unlock this door? Oh, I think I know. There. What luck! Oh, maybe you can take Winston and me back. What are you doing? What is... Oh!
The body is but a garment that the soul discards and wears yet another garment. So we are trapped in the cycle of birth and death. Surrender. So let go of your material wealth and begin your spiritual journey. Travel light.
Hello. Damn. At 1 a.m.? Where? Send Munswami over. All that time making get out. She has to go out in this kind of weather?
What is it?
Nothing much. Go back to sleep. It's that English woman again.
What about her?
She's dead. In her car somewhere on Whitefield Road.
Oh, my God. Poor woman. I'll make some coffee for you.
Better hurry.
Can I go with you?
What for?
Just to keep you company.
Look, I know you think you're very clever at this after the Hijra case.
No, I didn't mean that.
Let me finish. I don't like you interfering in my work. I don't interfere in your work, do I?
You did? You never let me complete my thesis.
Sweetheart, let us be clear about this. Your professor didn't like your work.
I couldn't submit the full paper because
Let me finish. It's 1 a.m. and I don't want to argue with you. I didn't allow you to use the Hijra murder because it was a sensitive case.
No,
Just listen. This is probably one of those robbery cases. She must have put up a fight, so she got killed. Some of the Muslims in that area have been arrested before. They must have stopped the car.
How do you know?
I haven't finished.
You never do. I just want to come because I met the lady once. She seemed a wonderful person, and for this to happen to someone like her is
When did you meet her?
Tragic, to say the least. Oh, I visited her once at her hotel. She wanted some help with her dog.
Did Munswami take you there?
No.
Good. Because I don't want him helping you when he is supposed to be on duty.
Put your shoes on while I make the coffee. Winston.
Eh?
What about poor Winston?
Why wasn't I informed?
We don't know who you are, and please, lower your voice in my police station.
But surely you would have found some papers in her bag. My address. It is a bit odd that you didn't look in her bag.
Who are you?
My name is Charles Montefiore. I live at the Swami's ashram in Whitefield.
Let me see your passport.
Here it is, officer.
So, how were you related to the deceased?
She was my sister. I can't believe it. I had to read about it in the paper this morning.
No, we did not find any address. Only a book with phone numbers, all foreign. Not a single Indian phone number or address, except a card of the hotel she was staying in.
Nothing else?
Maybe there were other things. What papers did you expect us to find in her bag?
May I take a look at her belongings?
They have been sent to the forensic experts. Interesting.
What?
Your profession.
No longer. I gave that up to come to India.
You can't stay for very long, you know. They are not going to renew your visa a third time.
That may not be necessary. I've applied for Indian citizenship. If I'm to be a Hindu, I might as well live in India.
Yes, of course.
There's one more thing. I don't want my sister's body lying in that morgue. She must rest in our family tomb in Buntingford.
There is to be a post-mortem, I'm afraid.
You will keep me informed.
We will. As far as we know, you are our only relative. Is there anything else?
No. Well, there is. Winston.
I beg your pardon?
The dog. Where is he?
One of our constables is looking after him. Herman Swami! Damn, I forgot. I gave him the day off to look after that dog.
I want that dog.
Oh, what a sad dog. He has got the bug.
Nobody in my house could sleep, madam. We gave it some milk and biscuits. Didn't eat anything, crying all night.
Do you think the driver is involved in some way?
No, madam. There is no proof.
Why did my husband arrest him then? Was there any money missing from her bag?
All the money was still in her bag. Whoever killed her did not kill her for money.
Maybe not for the money in her bag. Let's meet the driver.
I knew you would want to talk to him. Sir's gone to the headquarters this morning.
Then let's go. We'll drop Winston off at the vet's. And, Constable Munswami.
Sir?
Let's keep all information confidential, shall we?
Yes, sir. Okay, come on, this way. Here.
What is my crime? Being a Muslim? I tell you, they will not have arrested me if I was not a Muslim. Who will believe me, huh? You are also a Hindu.
No, you misunderstand. I want you to help me find out who killed the English lady.
How can I help you? I don't know anything. I leave her for half an hour, and when I come back, she is dead. In my car. Couldn't she die somewhere else? Why don't you help me also? My life is not important.
I understand, Maqsood. I will try to help you. But you help me find out her killer, and I'm sure it will benefit you also by proving your innocence.
After the Bull Temple, the next place the driver took her to is this man who found the dog. 16th Cross, Lakshmi Nivas.
What's his name?
Sitaram Trivedi, a North Indian.
And a Vaishnav Brahmin. Oh, wonder how he found Winston.
I feed the poor people at the temple every day. I too have dogs, so one of the street boys who found the dog brought him to me. A very nice breed. Very unfortunate about the lady.
Yes.
It is quite a privilege having the daughter-in-law of the Deputy Commissioner of Police visiting me. What can I do for you?
Well, this isn't exactly an official visit. I am merely interested in finding the motive for her murder. It is for my thesis on violence in India.
What do you know about her?
Oh, very little, I'm afraid. She must have spoken to you at length, considering she had lunch with you.
How do you know she had lunch with me?
Her driver told me.
Ah, yes. The Muslim gentleman?
Yes.
Yes, I did invite her to lunch. I read the announcement in the papers. I was thinking of putting in an advertisement myself after I found her dog. She talked about all kinds of things. The countries she had travelled to, her charities. She did not live in England, although she was English.
Why is that?
Because of the dog. So she could travel with her dog. England has very strict rules about bringing in animals. She did say she lived in Lucerne or Lausanne or somewhere. Are you interested in joining the corps of detectives?
Oh, no. My interests are purely, somewhat personal. You are in no way obliged to talk to me about the...
I will be happy to tell you what I know of the dear departed English lady.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Let me see. I should draw a quick biography for you. She was an extremely wealthy woman, a spinster, never married, from an illustrious English family from Hertfordshire. Was totally devoted to her dog. She was here in India to... Let me see. What was she doing here? I believe she had someone here she wanted to visit. I can't remember the name.
Charles?
Yes. Did she talk to you about Charles?
No, not at all. She just happened to mention that name. Who is he?
I believe her brother.
You're not sure?
No. You see, I must admit that after a while I wasn't paying too much attention. I was more interested in her dog Wilson.
Winston.
Yes. Where is he?
He is with me for the weekend. On Monday he will be taken over to the British Embassy, along with her body, which is in the morgue.
Unfortunate. All this. The papers said that she was strangled.
Yes, with Winston's leather lead. Did she appear to be spiritually drawn to any guru?
That wouldn't be very uncommon for a European travelling to India. I mean, they don't exactly come here for the weather.
I got the feeling she was distinctly, if I can use the word, Hindu-phobic, but I could be wrong.
There are two types of Europeans. Ones who understand and appreciate the depth and complexity of Hindu philosophy, and the others who feel threatened by it. The world will realize the greatness of the Hindu way of life. Wait and see. It is a question of time. They can't be blind forever, even if they choose not to see. They have to open their eyes sooner or later. We shall have our temples all over the world.
And at Ayodhya?
Time will tell.
What if it leads to a civil war? The horrors of partition all over again. Is Hindu pride worth all that? Isn't there any other way of establishing Hindu pride?
You are still young. What do you know of the horrors of partition? I have lived through it. Is there anything else you want to know about the lady? I believe I have said all that I can recall.
Did she seem antagonistic towards Hindus?
No. But she was totally ignorant of Hindu rituals. She thought we sacrificed children to appease goddesses.
I guess she could be scornful of Hindu rituals and yet seek spirituality in this country.
No. I think she came here to visit Charles. He lives here in Bangalore now, at the ashram in Whitefield. He calls himself a Hindu. I suppose you will want to meet him.
Well, I'm going to the ashram this afternoon.
He wasn't particularly looking forward to meeting her, I could tell, from her conversation.
Why?
She wanted him to return to England.
Have you met him?
Yes and no.
What do you mean?
I visit the ashram quite often. I have seen him there.
What kind of a person is he?
You will soon find out. I wish you good luck in your efforts. Jai Sri Ram.
Thank you for your time.
Will you take some advice from someone older than you?
What is it?
Don't take your Catholic school education too seriously. Jai Sri Ram.
A dangerous man.
What, madam?
I said he's a dangerous man. He's a real right-wing Hindu fanatic.
Why do they want to create so much trouble?
They feel they know everything. And they feel superior because they feel they know everything. And feel threatened by the presence of Islam and Christianity.
I did not like his face.
Why?
Well, somehow he seemed like a bad person.
Was it because of his eye?
I don't know.
Perhaps the reason was because he had a speck of white in his right pupil. It had a glint when the light shone a particular way. But that's no reflection on his character.
I have seen many bad people. Criminals.
You've been watching too many Bollywood films.
Where's his family? No wife, no children.
His wife is dead. There was a garland around her photograph in the corner of the living room.
No children.
Maybe they're away. Maybe he doesn't have any.
No wife, no children. He can't be a good man.
I don't have any children. Does that make me a bad person?
Madam, I did not mean it like that. If God is willing...
Let's drop in on Winston first to see if he is all right. Then take me home. We will leave soon after lunch. We will think a lot better with some nice avarakai sambar inside us. Hello? May I speak with the Governor's Secretary? This is Uma Rao, DCP Rao's daughter-in-law. Hello, Mrs. Jairam. Oh, fine, thank you. Well, it's the wedding season all over again. In fact, I'm helping the Chief Minister with his guest list. You and your husband are, of course, on the list. The reason why I called is I just want to do a security check on some of the invitees. You can never be too sure these days. So, do you have a Mr. Sitaram Trivedi on your files? Oh no, any information to make sure he is safe. Oh, and whether he has any children I need to invite as well?
Car was parked here.
Interesting that it stopped just a kilometer away from the temple.
This is a very good place to kill the English lady. Only fields, no houses or shops. It was raining so heavily that there was no traffic on the road. We don't know whether he came in a car or from the fields.
Or from the temple.
No tire marks, footprints, nothing. What heavy rain. 2 houses collapsed last night. It was written in her fate. If she had stayed at home... In England, I don't think they have rains like this.
In Hertford, Hereford and Hampshire, hurricanes hardly ever happen.
What?
Sir? Oh, nothing. Something silly.
Shall we go to the ashram?
Those sugarcane fields are a perfect hiding spot. Come.
Madam, the farmers don't like it.
There are some labourers over there.
Careful, the mud is all wet.
Maybe someone over here saw something. Has anyone ever bothered to ask them?
At night in the rains, who will be here?
But still... Oh!
What, madam?
That scarecrow over there is wearing a raincoat.
Madam, wait. Let us first ask someone.
I just want to take a closer look. I'm not going to disturb anyone. We are helping them by scaring the birds away. Quick, why don't you ask that farmer there where he got his raincoat from and whether he will loan it to us?
Namaskar.
What do you want?
I just want to look at that raincoat. Where did you get it from?
Is it yours?
No.
My grandson found it in our field.
Did you not tell the police?
For an ordinary raincoat that is also torn?
It's a Burberry raincoat.
Clearly the murderer has thrown it here in the field. You should have told the police.
Are you mad? They will only trouble us. They will say that we killed that foreign woman. Then we have to go to court every time. If you want the raincoat, take it. I don't want any headaches.
I will take it. Thank you.
Hey, Gopi, give that raincoat to them.
I must let you know, sir, that the raincoat is quite an expensive one.
Then you should try and return it to its owner.
Yeah, I will try.
Oh, will you have some sugarcane juice?
No, thank you, sir. Thank you.
You will try to find its owner.
That is our mission.
Oh, I trust you.
Namaskar.
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 You see the level of trust the police department have built with the people? Maybe somebody over there has actually seen it all happening, but they won't tell for fear of harassment from the police. Thank God you're not in uniform.
What can we do? We have to follow our orders.
No, I didn't mean you. I'm angry with... You know who I'm talking about. This raincoat is from England. Burberry's. I know a Bollywood movie star who had one.
The lady's raincoat?
It belongs to a man.
Oh. You mean her brother?
Charles can afford a coat like this one. Oh, look. Look at the right sleeve. Torn. Poor Winston. Tried his best to save his mistress. That is why the murderer wanted to get rid of it. Probably some blood stains deep in the fabric. So washed off the surface by the rains.
Shall we go back and tell Sir that we have found this?
No. He didn't want us getting involved, so we are not helping him. We are helping the Englishwoman and Winston. So, we will go to the ashram to find out the truth. Where did that procession come from?
It must be the nearby villages.
There isn't any festival on right now, is there?
Not a Ram festival.
Why the procession? Those idols are gigantic.
Jai Shri Ram.
Mr. Trivedi, what a surprise.
I am supervising this procession with my personal security guards.
Why? Do you expect trouble?
There always is when we pass the Muslim areas.
How do you know it's the Muslims?
I know you are trying to appease the minorities. I too believe in peace. After all, we are very tolerant. Up to a point.
It's so easy to start a riot. Anyone can throw the first stone.
Yes. That is why I am here to protect our religion.
Anyone. Even a hired hoodlum.
Perhaps. It is my dharma to protect what we hold sacred. We must re-establish Hinduism. I see you have been to the ashram already.
How do you know?
Swamiji has loaned you his raincoat.
Does this belong to Swamiji at the ashram?
Maybe I was mistaken. I thought I saw him wearing it. Was it the same night? Yes, at the Bull Temple. Anyway, what are you doing here? Checking out the scene of the crime.
You could say that.
Well, I wish you good luck.
Thank you. Oh, I was meaning to ask you. Where's your daughter?
She is no longer with me. Has the driver confessed as yet?
He may be innocent.
Quite a coincidence that the car should break down right here where there are no lights on the road. Excuse me, I must follow the procession. Jai Sri Ram.
Surely he must be mistaken. It can't belong to the Swami.
Madam, if you don't mind me saying, I think the truth is that Muslim driver only planned it. Otherwise, why did he stop the car here?
He was driving an ambassador, wasn't he?
Yes.
Similar model to this one here.
Yes, I think it is.
At what speed do you think you could drive this car at night, with the heavy monsoon shower?
I think about 40, 50 kilometers per hour.
Take out the fan belt.
Why?
No, take it out and drive straight to the ashram. And drive between 40 and 50. Hurry. We have to get back home soon after that before my husband returned. Otherwise we are both in trouble. So hurry.
Yes, sir. Madam, we are near the ashram and the engine is overheated.
Just as I thought.
So you are saying someone cut the fan belt when the car was here?
Possible, isn't it? With some rough calculation, you know the car will come to a halt at that lonely stretch. You also know that the driver will try to fetch help. How much time would you need to strangle someone? And there's one more thing.
What, madam?
She knew him. The driver had locked the car. There were no signs of a break-in. She unlocked the door for him.
Now what do I do?
Put the fan belt on and let the engine cool down. We will enter the ashram as visitors.
The mind of man has lost the point of balance and harmony in every sphere of existence. We are so engrossed in material survival that we are no longer aware of what is happening to us. Today we are so preoccupied with the gratification of our senses that we are unaware of the existence of our fellow human beings. They do not exist for us unless they fulfill some need or want. That is the cause of violence today. Because we feel that anyone who does not fulfill our needs or wants is not required on this planet. And sometimes the death of fellow human beings may also fulfill some base need in us. Today, this base need of some imbalanced person has affected us in the ashram. I call upon Shishya Charles to say a few words to us about how he has learned to come to terms with death. Purnasya purnam adaya purnameva avashishyate. If infinity is removed from infinity, infinity still remains. Now Charles will recite the Shantipath for us.
Asato ma satagamya, tamaso ma jyotirgamya. I'm sorry, I can't remember the rest. Swamiji, may I say the rest in English?
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Swami. You are compassionate. From darkness, lead us to light. From untruth, lead us to the eternal truth. From death, lead us to immortality. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. I remembered that one. My sister, my sole relative, came to India to visit me. She wanted me to go back to England with her. She loved me and she thought she knew what was good for me. She felt this somehow wasn't natural for me, this lifestyle, this madness as she called it. I tried to explain to her that I was a deeply unhappy person in England. I didn't know it then. I know it now, after Swamiji's blessings. I was too busy chasing all the wrong things. But here, in this ashram, I have found happiness I have never experienced before. I feel sad that someone got something out of killing my sister. Nobody would want her dead for any other reason. She was a warm and wonderful human being, deep inside. I do miss her terribly. But India and Swamiji have taught me how to deal with this loss. I'm still a happy person. Dhanyavad.
What's the matter?
I think a woman there has fainted.
She needs some fresh air. Clear the crowds while I help take her outside.
Are you all right? I have some homeopathy pills for giddiness if you still feel that way.
She's not going to speak to you or anyone for a few days. She's practicing Morna.
Oh, maybe she could write down her symptoms in case she needs to be treated.
I think she'll be fine.
Help her into the shade, Munswami.
Very well. Come along, miss.
Thank you for your help.
You must be Charles Montefiore?
I might be.
You must be. I can see the resemblance, although I expected you to be somewhat older.
Did you know my sister?
Is there some place we can talk privately?
That's one thing we don't have at the ashram. I'm on my way to the market. Care to join me?
Oh, I'll be happy to.
Madam, it's getting late. You have to be back.
When do you think we'll be back?
In a couple of hours. Well, maybe you'd like to come again.
No. There's not much time to lose. How are we going?
In my Rolls Royce.
We're going to the market in your Rolls Royce.
To sell our vegetables. I couldn't go this morning. Don't want to waste all that good stuff. Follow me.
Madam.
Call up home and tell them I'll be late. I guess the Swami has made quite an impression on you.
He's a wise old boy. I like what he stands for.
What does he stand for?
Peace and love and beauty.
India is hardly peaceful and lovely.
The ashram is.
That it is. Or so it seems. Were you really unhappy in England?
Good God, no. That was just PR work for the ashram. The crowds love it when I say I was deeply unhappy before I met the Swamiji.
Oh, I see.
Well, here it is.
This is your Rolls Royce.
Don't you believe me? Hop on.
Oh, no, I do believe you. Except I didn't know Rolls Royce made bullock carts as well.
Here, I'll lend you a hand. It might help if you hitch that sari up a bit.
Oh, I've never been on one of these.
The vehicle of the future, if you ask me. It won't be long before Rolls-Royce makes them. Hey! 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 Drive on, Silver Shadow. Don't hold yourself. Let go. Let your bum jump with the bumps. So tell me, who are you? And what is your interest in all this?
What were you before you became a full-time ashramite?
Ah, that would be telling.
You can't stay on in India forever, you know. They are very strict about these things.
Swamiji sorted that one out. You see, technically, I'm married to an Indian.
Oh?
To Radha, the girl who fainted.
You mean you just left your wife in that condition to sell vegetables for money you obviously don't need? I think you are taking being an Indian man to an extreme level.
There are enough people at the ashram to take care of her. That's what community is all about. Why? Does your husband treat you badly?
Ah, that would be telling. Did Swamiji arrange your marriage?
Yes. I like this arranged marriage business. I get to live here in India, and she gets a husband. No illusions of love and everlasting happiness. No one wanted to marry her because she's so thin. Alugare! Hindi! Aranaki! You freshly grown vegetables!
Oh, if only my husband could see me now. The ashram is quite beautiful. I can see why you want to live here.
You've been here before.
Many years ago. My mother was a devotee of the Swami. I used to tag along with her as a child.
Anything you recall from your childhood about this place?
Oh, yes. Lots of things. There used to be a hut over there, which was like a creche.
Ah.
It was one, in fact. Someone has grown datura bushes all along. Not a good idea with children around. The leaves and stem are quite poisonous. My mother used to leave me there when she wanted to meditate in peace, with all the other children and babies. All kinds of children. Children of sweepers, children of movie stars, and lots of other memories. How did you come to know of the ashram?
I met a man in London, an Indian. He talked a great deal about Advaita philosophy and so on. I was impressed and accepted his invitation to visit him in India. He turned out to be the most bigoted, racist, casteist, classist man I've ever met.
There are a lot of those going around. Some of them in very high positions of power.
Fortunately, I discovered the ashram.
Did the man bring you here?
Not a hope. He hates the Swami. Says he's up to no good. I found out about this place.
From whom?
The Lonely Planet. I nicked it from a tourist from Afghanistan.
Madam!
This is Constable Munswami. Of course, he's not on duty.
How do you do... Munswami, did you say?
Yes, sir.
Winston is with you.
How did you know?
They told me at the station. Where is he?
Well, right now he's at my home. I couldn't bring him, I'm afraid. Officially, he is supposed to be with Munswami.
I will ensure you have custody tomorrow, sir.
Thank you for looking after him.
We have something else, though, that may perhaps belong to you.
What is it?
Constable Munswami.
Where the devil did this come from?
So you admit this is yours?
Admit? It was mine. I gave it away as a present.
To whom?
Why are you looking at me like that? Where did you find this?
Madam, please, let us go back. It is better that this case is taken by the COD.
Where did you find my raincoat?
Don't tell him, madam.
We found it on a scarecrow, in a field close to where your sister was murdered.
You're not serious.
The right sleeve is torn.
But why? Surely you don't believe I killed her, do you?
No, I don't. But you are the only one, it seems, who stands to gain from her death. You inherit her wealth and property. All 500 acres of prime Hertfordshire land.
Nonsense. I don't want any of it, and I can prove it. Oh, no, I can't.
What are you talking about?
The papers. Did they find any documents addressed to Barnsworth and Milling in her bag?
No, there were no papers like that.
I remember she put them in the center compartment of her bag. Did you look there?
Wait a minute. You have to answer my questions first.
I didn't kill my sister, for God's sake.
To whom did you give that raincoat?
To Swamiji.
Was he at the ashram that night?
No.
Do you know where he was?
At the Bull Temple.
Madam, let us go back and inform the department. We will have the Swami arrested.
Arrest him? Just because he was at the Bull Temple and lost his raincoat when my sister died? You might as well arrest the Scarecrow.
It depends on what he stands to gain. Now, this is important. You have to tell us what was in that document.
I can't. I promised her I'd keep it a secret. But I guess it doesn't matter now that she's dead. She wanted me to go back and look after our estate. I didn't want any of it, so we had to set up 2 trusts. For one of the trusts dealing with my share of the wealth, I had the ashram as the beneficiary, with Swamiji as the senior trustee. So you see, he had no reason to kill my sister. He had no motive to kill her.
But as I understand it, you do stand to gain. Her share of the family wealth comes to you, doesn't it?
What do I need all that money for? I only want a couple of doties in a year, which the ashram provides me with anyway. I grow my own vegetables. I don't want any of it. Yes, I see what you mean. All her wealth is now mine. Well, it's just a question of time before I draw up another deed. You wait and see.
So the Swami has twice as much to gain now.
No, I won't give it all to the ashram. I'll split it between 2 trusts exactly the way my sister and I had worked it out before her death. It's all a bit overwhelming right now, but I will get around to doing it.
What about your wife?
She gets nothing. She wants nothing. It's the ashram that gets my wealth without bumping anyone off.
Well, I just don't understand. Something is not right.
Madam, we must hurry. Sir will be very angry.
It's time for my private satsang with the Swamiji. Care to join?
No, sir. Madam has to be at home before the guests.
I will stay. We are late anyway. Swami, I will never get an opportunity like this. Let's go. No, wait. Give me the keys. You take the bus and go back. Tell my husband I'm having a chat with the Swamiji. Constable Munswami.
Sir.
Give me the keys. And hurry, or you'll miss the last bus back.
Yes, madam.
Take care. See you tomorrow.
And I want Winston tomorrow. Swamiji, this is Uma Rao.
Hari Om.
Namaste.
She is a bit of a detective. She's been sussing me out all evening. Now it's your turn.
If only it was possible to suss people out like that, my child. Beware of Charles. He's a wicked man.
Me? Wicked? I'm just a simple vegetable grower. Look at my filthy dhoti.
And also the Calvin Klein underwear peeping out from your dhoti. You see how he fools us that he's a simple farmer.
Well, I guess a man needs his little comforts.
And who is this lovely child?
Her mother used to visit you 20 years ago or so.
I remember coming here too.
Those were the days when there was none of this nonsense of Hindu supremacy and India for Hindus movement. We were truly a secular nation then.
We still are, I guess.
Perhaps it is not too late. The irony of fate. I was at the temple speaking at an interfaith seminar, condemning the pulling down of the mosque. And at the same time, our Christian sister was brutally murdered.
Do you think her religion had something to do with it?
I hope not. I hope that this is not a sequel to that savage burning of the Australian missionary and his children. Where does our religion teach us to be so violent? It is all a power game.
They found our raincoat in the fields where her car had broken down. It was simply thrown there.
No. Just as I thought. Someone in the ashram is involved. I leave the raincoat in the main hall. Anyone can use it. Any of my aides or devotees. Look at these men. They never leave me alone. They know everything that is going on here. We do not believe in secrets. Yes, my daughter?
Daughter? Is she his daughter?
That's just a way of speaking. He called you his child, didn't he?
Oh. What have you brought for me? Milk?
How are you feeling now, Radha? Better? What's the matter?
Come and say hello to Uma Rao. She's the lady who helped you this evening when you fainted.
Hello, Radha. What have you got there in your hand?
You may break your vow of silence if you want to tell us something.
I feel as if I know you. I have seen you somewhere. Those eyes. Oh, I've been so stupid.
Radha!
Look, Datura leaves. She's eaten the poisonous leaves. We need to take her to hospital. She must have a stomach wash immediately.
St. Mary's Hospital. I'll call and let them know you're coming.
We'll take your car.
Yes. Of course, of course. Keep slapping her face.
Come on. Come on.
You should have known.
What?
It's not your sister's death which is important to him, but yours.
Then why was my sister killed?
He had to stop her from executing your letter of intention to Barnsworth and Milling. That would leave the Swami with everything, and he would get nothing. He wanted that raincoat to be found. That's why he threw it in the field, knowing it will be found, so he could put the suspicion on Swami. Now listen to me. Once we get her to the hospital, you are going to move into a hotel in town and make sure that the police provide you with enough security until you have set up your trusts.
Well, it won't be so easy getting...
He's a very influential person.
And who exactly?
One of the Swami's aides must be his goon. He knows everything that goes on in the ashram. In Hertford, Hereford and Hampshire.
What are you talking about?
Property. That's what they're after, your property.
Well, they can't possibly...
To set up a township or a mega ashram to get expatriate Indians, millionaires interested in donating to the ashram, which would be a facade, of course, to raise funds for their grand election campaigns, to gather support. For their pogrom.
Pogrom? Like the Nazis, you mean?
Probably, I don't know. To eliminate Muslims, Christians, maybe not genocide, but to disempower them, to build temples, to win the 700 million strong Hindu vote bank.
But then, why would she want to kill herself? She gets it all, as I see it, if they bump me off before I form the trust.
The poor woman doesn't want any of it. Beaten up by her father, forced to act according to his wishes. She couldn't take it anymore.
And who might this charming gentleman be?
The man who got you interested in Hinduism and invited you here. Sitaram.
How do you know?
Let's just say I saw it in her eyes. I checked him out this afternoon. He makes several trips to England. He is affiliated to the India for Hindus movement. Oh, damn!
What's wrong?
Swami forgot to put the fan belt on again. Oh, how is she?
I didn't want to upset you, but she's sinking fast.
There's a car coming! Stop! Please stop!
Uma, get back into the car! It's him! He's got a gun!
Oh, God!
Get back into the car!
Don't move or I'll shoot you.
Take your daughter to the hospital!
Get that man to come out. Get out of that car, Charles, or I'll shoot the woman.
Leave her alone!
Didn't you hear me? Radha is in the car, dying. If she dies, you get nothing.
You dare harm my daughter and
She killed herself!
No! She was killed by a fanatic. You killed your daughter.
I don't believe you. Where is she?
In the car. She's dead. She poisoned herself. You get nothing.
I don't believe you.
See for yourself.
Get away from the car. No! You will die for this!
You killed my sister for nothing!
Hold it! All right!
Why did you kill my sister? And now, your own daughter. How can you live with your conscience?
I didn't want any of it for myself. I only wanted to help the Hindu cause.
Oh. You could have helped the Hindu cause by being a good Hindu yourself. He thought by framing the Swami, he would get rid of an opposer. The Swami is truly spiritual and wants none of this new brand of Hinduism. Radha was totally under her father's control. It would be very easy for Sitaram Trivedi to manage the property once she inherits it from Charles, whom I'm sure he would have killed in a way to make it look like an accident. He had grand plans. England would have been the perfect place to set up his own pseudo-ashram.
Did this man Charles shoot at Sitaram?
Sitaram had the gun all along. He meant to kill us.
You don't know that for sure.
Of course I do. Why would he pull out a gun and shoot real bullets at us?
In the court, I want you to say it was an accident.
That man tried to kill your wife.
No, he did not. That's just your imagination.
Oh, come on, Suresh.
It was an accident, do you understand? He thought you were being attacked, so he stopped to help you. His gun went off accidentally.
I am not going to say that.
Nobody is going to believe you anyway. You have no proof.
You are a supporter.
What do you mean?
You do believe in it yourself. What people like Sitaram are trying to do to this country, you want it. I am going to say what I want to say in that court.
I was onto him anyway. I would have nabbed him alive if you hadn't interfered.
Please do not leave your baggage unattended. For security reasons, any unattended baggage will be confiscated.
Well, thank you for everything.
You're welcome.
And thank you for offering to look after Winston.
The laws have changed now. No quarantine for Winston when I take him back.
You could have taken him with you now.
Not right now. The inquest was stressful enough. I'll be back soon. After I set up the trusts and make sure she rests peacefully in our family graveyard.
Oh, she will, knowing that you are setting up the trust for Winston the way she wanted it. I wonder what the outcome of all this will be.
Don't let your husband take all the credit.
The papers are full of it. At least we made a noise.
You did. You were marvelous in the courtroom.
No, what's the point? It's his story which will have more weight. The real issue will be sidetracked.
I'm sure my colleagues aren't going to ignore this one.
Your colleagues?
Well, my ex-colleagues, I should say. I worked for the Metropolitan Police.
I don't believe you.
It's true.
You mean you used to work at Scotland Yard?
That's right.
Oh, sure. Like you used to drive a Rolls-Royce to sell vegetables.
You wait and see. And one more thing. The £5,000 cheque which my sister had made out to Mr. Sitaram for finding Winston, he never did get a chance to bank it. I want to offer that money to Munswami for looking after Winston. Will you please let him know?
Charles?
Yes?
You are a remarkable man.
I'll come back. Soon.
Till we meet again. Munswami.
Yes, madam.
I think Winston wants to go for a walk.
I will take him for a walk. Come, Mr. Winston.
Take care. He's a very rich dog, as well endowed as the Swami.
In The Swami and Winston by Mahesh Dattani, Priyanka Ilan played Uma Rao and Shiv Grewal Constable Munswami. Suresh Rao was played by Ajay Chabra, Charles Montefiore by Andrew Wincott, and Lady Montefiore by Richenda Carey. Syed Jaffrey was the Swami and Paul Bhattacharjee was Sitaram Trivedi. Other parts were played by Amarjit Dew and Nitin Chandra Ganatra. Music was by Eero Hominimi. The director was Jeremy Mortimer.
Prisoner, attention! You're required for interrogation by the Chief of Police. Quick march! Prisoner, halt!
Thank you, Constable. You may go. Sit down, please. Now, once again, I must present to you the following confession for your signature. I, having been convicted of conspiracy against the state, do solemnly confess my guilt, and so on and so on, and so, with feelings of shame and disgust, I renounce my crimes, and the only desire I have is to serve our government with all my strength and with the deepest veneration and love for the rest of my life.
Oh, don't put it away. I'll sign it.
You'll sign it? What?
I'll sign it now.
But why?
What do you mean, why? For 10 years you examine me, interrogate me, keep me in prison. Every day for 10 years you give me that form to sign. When I refuse, you threaten me with dreadful punishments and try to talk me round. Finally, I agree to sign so that I can get out of prison and serve the government. And you look surprised and ask me why.
But it's so sudden and without warning.
Colonel, I am undergoing a drastic change.
What change?
A drastic change of heart. I don't want to fight the government anymore.
Why not?
I'm fed up with it. If anyone wants to fight the government, let them. I don't know who's going to do it. Spies for a foreign power, perhaps. Secret agents. But not me anymore. I've done my bit.
I'd never have expected this of you. Stop fighting the government, become a conformist. You're a fine one to talk like that, the oldest prisoner in the country.
Exactly, Colonel. Is it true that I am the last man still in prison?
Yes.
You see. Long ago it became obvious to everyone that we have the best political system in the world. My former colleagues confessed their guilt, received their pardon, and went home. Now there's nobody left to arrest. I am the last remaining revolutionary. But what sort of a revolutionary? In my heart of hearts, I'm a stamp collector.
That's what you say now. But who threw the bomb at the general?
Oh, ancient history, Colonel. The bomb didn't even explode. It's not worth raking that up.
Honestly, I can't believe my ears. For 10 years, you've refused to make a statement. You've held out splendidly. Time and time again, you've been ordered to sign, but you never broke down. Instead, you would stand up in disgust and spit at that picture of our infant king and his uncle, the regent. May they live forever. We've got used to living here together. Everything's nicely settled, and now suddenly you want to destroy it all.
I tell you, there's just no point. If only I hadn't been so ideologically abandoned, perhaps I could have gone on longer. But to think that the whole population of our beautiful, peaceful, and fertile country has for so long been singing the praises of our infant king and his uncle the regent, may they live forever, that all the prisons are empty, that I alone, just me... No, Colonel, I promise you. I've given up my former beliefs. If the whole people supports the government and is against me, there must be something in it. In fact, we've got a very good government. And that's that.
Yes.
I beg your pardon?
While accepting with sincere joy and satisfaction the prisoner's confession, bearing witness to a change of heart which has come about under the corrective influence of imprisonment, I nevertheless consider it my duty to ascertain to what extent his new, favourable, and entirely rational opinions are deep-rooted and lasting. Why, then, if I may ask, do you consider that our government is good?
Oh, you've got eyes, Colonel. Never before in history has our country reached a high stage of development. You know, sometimes I move my plank bed against the window of my cell. I put my latrine bucket on top of it upside down. I stand on the bucket on tiptoe, and I can see out of the window. There is a most beautiful meadow. Every spring it bursts into flower with different-coloured blossoms. Then at haymaking time, the farm workers come to the meadow and cut the grass. During the last 10 years, I watched their faces light up with a happiness and satisfaction which grows in strength every year.
Do you realize that it is against the prison rules to look out of the window?
Oh, but for ideological purposes, Colonel, in the name of corrective education. And that's not all. On the other side of the meadow, there's a small hill. And on the other side of the hill, during the last 7 years, an industrial building has been constructed. I can see a chimney. And sometimes there's smoke coming out of it.
To be strictly correct, I think I should tell you that that is a crematorium.
Oh, why should they always bury dead people in the ground like they've been doing for centuries and centuries? Don't atheists have the same right as believers to dispose of their bodies in the way they wish, with the sort of funeral they like? Now, what you say only confirms what I've always felt, that this country of ours is a land of the broadest tolerance, even in religious matters.
Well, yes, you've got to admit it.
You see, I'm right.
I'm a civil servant, and I can't settle this matter myself. That is to say, I can't accept your change of heart too swiftly. I must first of all investigate to see that there are no doubts or hesitations left in your mind. It may be that you're looking at things through rose-tinted spectacles. Take the economic situation, for example. Are you not overlooking certain specialized matters like, say, the railway?
Even the most fanatical enemy of our state system could not deny that the railway, as a phenomenon, exists in this country.
Yes. And as for the people in that picture, I suppose you never had the slightest intention.
I don't understand, Colonel.
Honestly, talking to you, anyone would think you threw a tomato at the general, not a bomb, and that it never entered your head that our regent, may he live forever, the uncle of our infant king, is an idiot.
Colonel?
No, all right, don't worry. Obviously he isn't. That is to say, as far as his intellect is concerned. But you must admit that even the most powerful brains have a little weaknesses lower down. That is, among their habits, tastes.
What are you laughing at, Colonel?
You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You, an old revolutionary, asking such a question.
It's all this educational effect of prison life that you were talking about. I give you my word, I've simply forgotten what that laugh might mean.
Oh.
Is it some sort of an illusion?
Okay.
Is it something unpleasant connected with the persons of our infant king and of his uncle, the regent? That pure old man?
All right, then, very good. As representative of the High Command, I congratulate you on your progress. Let me shake your hand. There. But this does not mean that we can give ourselves up to a sudden burst of rejoicing. It is a matter of great concern both to you, having undergone what we hope is a genuine change of heart, and to me, who must not accept your story too trustingly. You say that you do not believe that our regent is a you-know-what. But psychologists tell us that often a man gives the impression that he is not thinking something, while, in fact, he is thinking it all the time. What have you got to say to that?
You're right, Colonel. That's exactly the point. Sometimes it seems to us that we think we're not thinking, but we are thinking, while all the time we're not thinking at all. Thought is a powerful weapon, Colonel.
Yes.
Please believe me. I'm finished with my former mistaken anti-government point of view. There are many reasons for my change of heart. The external reasons are those you've already mentioned. The universal progress that our country has made. You only have to pick up a newspaper to be convinced of that. Look around you, Colonel. Don't bury your head in the sand in the face of these achievements. You've only got to look at your salary, Colonel.
Oh.
That in itself is enough to show how groundless our complaints about this country.
Do go on.
However, I can show you that there are other emotions, internal emotions, which I feel more personally. You see, when I was a child, I had no idea about law and order, about discipline and having an aim in life. All the time it was freedom and freedom. Well, this sort of monotony in my spiritual diet could only satisfy part of my personality. Feelings of revolt against the established order, a desire to oppose all restrictions and authority, I have plenty of those. But in the course of time, I began to feel a certain dissatisfaction. I came to the conclusion that I was being handicapped. Why is this, I asked myself? Why has fate tormented me, deprived me of the joyful sensation of agreement, subservience and loyalty, the delightful feeling of unity with authority?
Why, indeed?
I was a man unfulfilled, Colonel. But at last I understood that it was even then not too late. At last my first me, rebellious and always complaining, perished as a result of overindulgence. And a second me awoke with a loud voice, demanding the nourishment that was its due. A joyful and calm conformity, an eager hope in the future, and the peace which flows from a full submission to authority.
What do you intend to do now?
Well, here I am. The last political prisoner in a country that is now flourishing and entirely loyal. The last dark cloud in the blue sky of the rule of our infant king and his uncle the regent. I am the only reason why they still keep the police force going. If it weren't for me, they could send all the judges and guards off home. The prison would stand empty and could be turned into a preparatory school. You could get out far into the fields and meadows with a gun or a fishing rod and throw off your suffocating uniform. I tell you, Colonel, you've won at last. For the first time in the world's history, the ideal of law and order in a state has been achieved. Today should be a great occasion in your life, Colonel. It is a day of final victory. Today I sign the paper that you have been trying to persuade me to sign for 10 years. I will go out into the free world and support the government. What is more, I will send an open letter to our infant king and his uncle the regent. The most humble letter that has ever been written, filled with the deepest devotion and love.
You remember that stamp collection you were so proud of?
Yes, what's that got to do with it?
Just reflect for a moment whether you really want to leave us. Perhaps you could think it over once more and strengthen your convictions. Look before you leap, as they say. Meanwhile, we could give you a hand in your stamp collecting. We've got secret agents in many interesting foreign countries who send us reports. We could soak the stamps off and give them to you for your album. Outside it's not so easy to get good stamps. Yeah. Yes, what is it?
Sir, the sergeant's back.
Tell him to come in.
Come in, Sergeant.
Well, Sergeant, how did you get on? My God, you look a sight. What happened? Go on, tell me.
Sir, in accordance with my duties as agent provocateur, I was shouting anti-government slogans in the street and they beat me up.
What? Who beat you up? No, you don't really mean that they...
Unfortunately, yes, I was beaten up by the loyal population.
I expected as much.
You see, Colonel, it bears out my theory.
Please don't interfere. Yes. Give me the details, Sergeant.
Sir, immediately upon receiving your instructions, I proceeded to carry them out. First of all, I acquired a civilian suit, although if there's one thing I hate, it's civilian clothes. To improve my disguise, I obtained a green hat with a narrow brim and a raincoat. And then I went out into the street. For a short time, I conducted myself defiantly opposite the government office of Weights and Measures, but nobody paid any attention. So I went to the square and made faces in front of the statue of our infant king and his uncle the regent. May they live forever. Ooh, oh. Again, nobody saw me because you know, Colonel, everybody's in a hurry there. Then I went off and stood in a queue at a kiosk where they were selling beer. I looked around and saw in front of the kiosk, and all around me there was a collection of simple, ordinary citizens. About 30 or 38 people were there, more or less. Now this is fine, I thought to myself. The queue moved forward, and all the time I was wondering what to do about it. At last I had an idea. And when my turn came round, I said to the man, in my normal voice, 2 half pints, please, in quick succession.
I don't understand.
Well, don't you see? I was pretending that the royal succession had brewed the beer and that they were giving short measure and that sort of thing.
Ah, yes.
Well, either he didn't understand or, well, he looked pretty stupid, or else he didn't want to understand. Anyway, he just asked me, mild or bitter, sir? So then I let him have it straight. I said, our whole farming system's down the drain, and if you don't steal, you'll die of starvation. Then one of them asked me if I was making any allusion to life in the present day, because he was an employee of the state and he would not tolerate the state being insulted.
What did you say then?
Well, I gave him the lot. The agricultural situation, foreign trade, then a few words about the police, especially the secret police. Then a young man in a cloth cap came up out of the group and he walked towards me. You leave our police alone, he says. I suppose next thing you'll start on the army. You'll want to cut down national service, and next autumn I'm due to go before the recruiting board. I realised things were hotting up. But you know me, Colonel, I've been in the police since I was a child, and this job as agent provocateur, it's something sacred to me.
Yes, of course, yes.
Well, anyway, I didn't pay any attention and went on with all the usual things. The income tax, the health service, and then a lot of stuff about our infant king, may he live forever, and his uncle, the regent. They all shouted, you're one of those, are you? You're going to stand here and slander our beloved rulers? And then they all got together and beat me up.
Bravo, what a fine set of men.
And you know, Colonel, when they were beating me up, there were 2 conflicting feelings in my mind. A feeling of sadness and a feeling of joy. I was sad that I had not carried out your order, and that I could not provoke anybody to be disloyal, and that once more there's nobody we can arrest. But I was happy that love and reverence for the government and for the persons of our infant king and his uncle the regent are so widespread and strongly felt by the population, as you can tell by my black eye.
Colonel, what the sergeant has said makes me even more convinced. I desire this instant to give up my former ideals that disgust me whenever I think of them. I will now sign the Declaration of Loyalty. Can I have a copy of it, please? And pen and ink.
Is your mind made up, then?
Nothing can alter my decision now. When I leave this building with all its memories and recollections, I shall without delay apply to work for the state.
What's that?
Give me the paper, please.
You don't mind about the stamps?
Why should I think about postage stamps when I can join the service of our infant king, may he live forever, and his uncle the regent? The passion of a collector is nothing compared to the spirit of service. Of what use are my stamp albums when I can give myself up to the delights of loyalty, which I've discovered for the first time in my life after such a long phase as an anarchist?
All right, then. I won't press you any more. Here is pen, ink, and paper. If that's what you want, you can have it.
At last.
Yes, sir?
Constable, bring in the prisoner's things.
Oh, yes, sir.
You disappointed me. I thought you'd hold out longer. It was so impressive the way you never broke down.
Here they are, sir. 1 cape, 1 mask, 1 bomb.
It is my duty to return to you the things that were found on your person at the moment of your arrest.
Ghosts of the past. Oh, no, not the bomb. I finished that forever. Colonel, I'd be so pleased if you would accept this bomb as a present from me and as a souvenir of our happy times together. It can be a mark of the fatherly triumph that you have achieved over me. It is all that remains of the last revolutionary. You can have the mask, too.
Just as you like.
Allow me to congratulate you, Colonel. The last revolutionary is dead. A new citizen has been born. If I were you, I would give my whole staff a 3-day holiday. And why only 3 days? From now on, there will be nothing left for them to do. Goodbye, all. And thank you for everything.
Don't mention it.
Long live our infant king and his uncle the regent!
My God. My God.
I wonder if I could provoke him to be disloyal.
Good morning.
Oh.
The sergeant at home?
Oh, no, I'm afraid he's not back from work yet.
Not back from work. Today's his day off, isn't it?
He never takes his days off. What did you want to see him about?
Did your husband say when he'd be back?
No. He went into town to do some voluntary provoking. I don't know when he'll be back.
I see. Well, please don't let me interrupt you. You're, sewing, I see.
Oh, yes. It's just some gold braid for my husband's underpants.
Hmm?
He feels so terrible in civilian clothes these days and always likes to wear some tiny piece of military dress, even if it's underneath everything.
I see.
Colonel.
Yes?
I wish you'd take him off this job. Don't make him do any more provoking in civilian clothes.
Why not?
Oh, you've no idea how thin and pale he's got since he's had to go about in civvies. He can't exist out of uniform. He's withering away.
I'm afraid that's just too bad, madam. Provoking is always done in civilian dress.
Well, couldn't he just wear his helmet? He always used to feel much better then.
No, madam, a helmet would attract attention.
Oh, yes. Yes, of course. Oh, it's such a long time since he's had anyone to arrest. He probably doesn't show it in front of you, Colonel, but at home he's become moody and quite intolerable. One new arrest would put him right again.
You can't make arrests without an agent provocateur.
I'm afraid I've just given up hope.
You don't know anyone that we could arrest. What about your neighbours? Any distant relatives?
No. No, they're all law-abiding citizens.
Yes.
Yeah, there was an old man on our street who used to complain.
Oh?
But with him it was the gout, not the government.
Yes, nowadays it's all so peaceful, all so quiet.
Yes.
Tell me, how did you first meet your husband?
Oh, that was ages ago, Colonel. He reported me to the secret police and I reported him.
Oh.
That's how we got to know each other.
When do you expect your husband home?
He may be back now. He always listens at the doors on his way upstairs. I'll go and have a look.
Colonel.
Ah! Sergeant, you startled me. What do you think you're doing coming in through the window?
I was walking on the tops of the houses. I thought there might be something fishy going on. Anyway, down in the street, it couldn't be quieter.
What did you find?
Nothing at all, Colonel, just a few birds. Is my wife here?
She went out onto the staircase. She thought you were there.
She always listens at the doors when she goes down the stairs. You don't mind if I change now, do you, Colonel? I feel naked without my uniform on.
No, do change if you like. You're in your own home. It's your day off, too.
Yes, I know, but... You see, I thought maybe today was going to be my lucky day, so I went out. I did a bit of provoking before lunch, but as usual, it was no good. They just shouted and cheered.
If it hadn't been for you, Sergeant, perhaps we'd never have lived to see this alarming drop in the crime figures. It is thanks to you we now have this perfect state of law and order. I must recommend you for promotion.
Oh, it's nothing, Colonel. I just felt I had to go and try once more. I like doing it, really. What a relief to be back in uniform. At last I can relax.
Yes, Sergeant. Now I've got an important matter to discuss with you.
Yes, sir?
Find some excuse to send your wife off. She mustn't come in here. I'm sure she's quite reliable, but what I have to talk to you about is most secret.
Oh, right, sir. My dear, would you come here a minute? No, yes, now, come on. Off you go. I sent her off to get some waterproof glue.
Couldn't you think of a better excuse than that?
It wasn't an excuse, Colonel. I really need it. My raincoat got torn last time they beat me up.
Oh, that's all right then. Has she gone far?
She won't be back for 3/4 of an hour.
I suppose you're surprised by my visit.
Yes, sir. Chief of police here in my house. Oh, I'd sooner have expected a revolution.
No wishful thinking now, Sergeant.
Oh.
Anyway, a keen sergeant must always be prepared for a revolution. No, I didn't really mean that. Your service record is irreproachable.
But of course, Colonel.
Still, in your exemplary conduct, there is something more than ordinary conscientiousness and sense of duty. Sit down, please.
Thank you, sir.
As I said, you are not only an excellent policeman. I have found that you are something more than that.
Sir?
I find that you've given me an idea.
Yes, sir.
You put on civilian clothes, do you not, when your job requires it, even though you can't stand wearing them?
Yes, sir. Anything for my job, sir.
Exactly. In other words, you sacrifice your personal likes and dislikes on the altar of service to the state.
Sir.
But that's not important. In examining your case, I've come to the conclusion that your keenness, readiness, and devotion to duty are quite out of proportion with the tasks you fulfill so admirably.
Yes, sir.
You give me the impression of a Hercules who spends his time cutting wood and carrying water.
Beg pardon, sir?
Of course, that sort of work is difficult and useful, but it is not the work of a Hercules. In you there is a strength, Sergeant, a strength which is only partly finding its outlet in ordinary work. For you are something more than a civil servant. You are inspired by the idea of order and general discipline. You are the mystic of the police force, the saint of the police. Now, listen carefully to what I say.
Yes, sir.
Do you realize that we shall never have the chance to arrest anyone again?
What did you say, sir?
I'll tell you something else. Not only will we never arrest anyone ever again, but your son, your grandson, and your great-grandson, they won't arrest anyone either.
Oh, no.
The whole police force is standing on the edge of a precipice. What is the function of a policeman? It is to arrest those who offend against the existing order. But suppose there aren't any people like that left. Suppose that as a result of the operations of our improved and reconstituted police force, the last trace of rebelliousness in our people has disappeared, and that they have become universally enthusiastic for the regime. Suppose that they have formed once and for all a permanent love for our infant king and his uncle the regent. What is there for the police to do then?
Oh, Colonel, I feel ill.
For a long time I've been expecting and dreading the moment which has now arrived. Our last political prisoner has just signed the Act of Allegiance, has been released from prison, and has begun to serve our infant king and his uncle the regent. I tried to keep him back. I promised him stamps for his collection. It was no good. Do you know what this means? It means that we have beautiful prisons constructed at great expense. We have a highly trained, devoted staff. We have courtrooms, offices, and card indexes. And we now have not one single prisoner, not one single suspect, not one single clue to follow up. People have become wildly, cruelly, bestially loyal.
That's true, Colonel. That's a fact.
Soon the time will come when we'll have to take off our uniforms.
Oh, sir.
And then you'll toss and turn in bed at nights, longing hopelessly for one little interrogation. Your gold braid sewn onto your underpants won't be much good to you then. Already you're suffering from insomnia, and for the moment you've still got your job. Think what it'll be like soon.
Oh, no,
But
no.
yes. They'll take away your uniform. They'll give you some sort of sports jacket, walking shoes, and a pair of flannels. You'll be able to go out into the fields or into the water with a fishing rod or a shotgun if you like. You'll be able to arrest hares and sparrows, so long as it isn't the mating season.
Is there nothing we can do, Colonel?
I have come to you not only in my capacity as Chief of Police, not only as your superior officer. At this dreadful time, we are both of us just simple constables. In the face of the ruin which is facing our life's work, we must give each other our hands and offer brotherly advice for its solution. And now listen to me. A man who can even now save the situation is you.
Me?
Yes, you. Pay attention to what I'm saying. What do we need? What we need is one person who we could lock up, who we could arrest for something which could in some very slight degree be described as anti-government activity. Having several times attempted to find this man, it has become apparent that we shall not find him in the ordinary course of events. We must, so to speak, compose this man ourselves. My choice has fallen on you.
I don't understand, sir.
What don't you understand?
What I have to do.
Exactly the same as you've been doing all along. Shout something against the government, but with this difference. This time we won't let you off. We'll lock you up.
Me?
Yes, you. We'll open the window so that they can hear you better from the street. Then you can stand by the window and shout out something as loud as you can against our infant king and his uncle the regent. May they live forever. Then I'll draw my sword, arrest you, and that's that.
My God, but I'm supposed to be a policeman.
You are more a policeman than anyone else in the world. To be a member of the police and to pretend to others that you're not a policeman, that makes you really a double policeman. But to be a policeman and to pretend to yourself that you're not a policeman, that makes you a policeman deep down, luxuriously, in the depths of your heart. We might say that you're a super policeman, unlike any other policeman, even a double policeman.
I see, sir.
Before today is out, I shall send a report to the General. Tomorrow morning, our infant king and his uncle the regent will be informed that we have discovered and arrested a revolutionary. We shall be saved.
What do I have to shout?
You choose.
Shall I say that our regent, the uncle of our infant king, is a swine?
That's not direct enough. It must be something strong and forceful with no understatement, so that I can arrest you 100%.
Oh, well, then, what about a dirty swine?
That's much better. Open the window.
Yes, sir.
Now, 1, 2...
just a minute. There's a bit of dust on my uniform. Right. Now.
1, 2, 3.
Our regent, the uncle of our infant king, is a dirty swine.
How's that, sir? I arrest you in the name of our infant king and his uncle, the regent.
Good heavens. Still trying to provoke people. Can't you take a rest?
Silence, woman, this time at last. He's made a success of it. So, Sergeant, you've been trying to saw through the bars of your cell window. And you kicked one of the warders. This is the second time it's happened.
I don't know what's come over me, really, Colonel.
Is there anything you need?
No, thank you.
Still, you look as if there's plenty you need. You're so pale and silent.
Well, maybe that's because I'm locked up in prison, sir.
Every day I send reports about you to the General. Thanks to you, we've been granted funds for rebuilding the prison, recruiting new personnel, and strengthening the patrols. The General has become personally interested in your case. He says that you're a very dangerous man, and that it's extremely fortunate I got you in time. Ha! I don't look so glum. If I didn't know you better, I'd think all this was depressing you. The General says that today he will attend your interrogation in person. Are you ill? Aren't you sleeping properly?
Not very well.
Would you like a drink?
Oh, yes, please, sir.
There you are.
Thank you, sir. Colonel, I mustn't drink with you.
Why not?
Because I'm just an ordinary... Colonel, can you tell me, what am I?
What a question. You're yourself.
But what does that mean, Colonel? I'm myself. I just don't know what I am now, a policeman or a prisoner. And another thing, if I'm a policeman, am I myself? Or if I'm a prisoner, am I myself? And since I must be myself, am I a policeman or a prisoner?
I explained all this to you at the time of your arrest. Why start all over again?
It was all quite clear then, sir, because that was just at the beginning, and I still knew what I was, an ordinary police sergeant in the Secret Service. Things really started to go wrong earlier when I was working as an agent provocateur. If I'd known at that time, I'd have asked you to put someone else on this provoking job. It just wasn't an idle whim that I was so upset at having to wear civvies. A policeman should never take off his uniform under any circumstance.
Still, it never entered your head to make a complaint. And when it was your day off, you went out to work of your own free will.
But, sir, it wasn't anything like as bad as it is now. It only really began to get bad when you arrested me and I started my time in prison. Prison has a terrible effect on a man, sir. From the moment I was arrested, everything started getting more and more confused.
What do you mean?
Well, sir, to start with, I remembered everything just as you explained it to me. Then I began to have attacks and blackouts. I got frightened. I started repeating to myself over and over again, I am a sergeant in the Secret Service. I am a sergeant in the Secret Service. Or rather, the top Secret Service. But then it...
What happened then?
Well, then I stopped repeating it. I didn't see the sense. And it reached the point, Colonel, when... Oh, anyway, what I meant was that I'm just an ordinary...
An ordinary what, damn it?
Well, either an ordinary policeman or an ordinary prisoner, whichever I am.
Why do we have to bring out these stupid, childish arguments? This is what comes of giving responsible jobs to people with no higher education. In your place, a man with any intelligence...
Oh, what I was going to say was that whichever of the two I am, I do not think that I should drink with you. If I'm a policeman, then I cannot condone your drinking with a prisoner. That is to say, with me, because I am, in fact, under arrest. And if I'm a prisoner, a revolutionary, feared by the General himself and by the government of the country, there again, I should not drink with you.
Why not?
Because if I'm a prisoner, I must conduct myself according to the moral code of an imprisoned revolutionary. And I cannot drink with the Chief of Police, a representative of authority.
Have you gone mad?
No, Colonel, this is something stronger than me. Are you in a position to release me from prison? No, you are not. So I've got to stay in prison. And if I have to stay in prison, the effect of that environment on me becomes stronger and stronger. I've tried to fight it, but I feel that every day I spend in prison does something horrible to me. Something I can't quite understand.
Maybe you are ill.
No, it's not that, Colonel. I couldn't be more healthy. This is something quite different. Do you know that since the time that you arrested me, I've started to develop certain new ideas?
Be careful what you say.
No, sir, I want you to know about it. For example, before this, I used to travel quite often by train. And I never thought anything particular about it. But when a man's in prison, he begins to think much more critical. And you know what I've decided?
How should I know? Tell me at once.
That our railway system is atrocious.
Do you realize what you're saying? I warn you, I shall have to write this down.
Do make a report, sir, please. This sort of thing gets a hold of a man, and he just can't stay silent any longer. Take art and culture, for example. Will you tell me, Colonel, why did we have to torment and persecute those poor artists?
A little slower, please. What were those last two words?
I said those poor artists.
Poor artists. Right. No, I don't believe it. You, with your record of loyal service, do you really hold these opinions?
Yes.
We've worked together for so many years. Everything's always gone smoothly, and all the time you were... Do you really think that things are so bad in this country? Think it over.
What is there to think over? Now, listen. If I move my plank bed against the wall, put the bucket on it upside down and stand on it, I can see out of the window of my cell. There's a field there, and just now it's full of farmers, because it's harvest time. When I examine them closely, I can't help thinking... I wish you could see it, sir. What sour expressions they've got on their faces, the general dissatisfaction that's painted on them.
This is an entirely subjective outlook on your part. Quite apart from the conclusions to which it leads, whether they're loyal or disloyal, subjectivism as a method is entirely opposed to our party program. I would have had to punish you even if you hadn't mentioned this so-called dissatisfaction. And besides, it's against the rules to look out of the window.
But not for somebody who's fighting against the government, Colonel. Someone like that would not deprive himself of any trivial little act of rebellion. On the contrary, he would consider it part of his duty to bring his mission to fulfillment, not to mention the satisfaction. And another thing, when I look out of the window, I can see a newly built crematorium on the other side of the field, and that also gives me food for thought. It is a non-productive investment.
Would you deny atheists the right to dispose of their bodies as they like, with their own sort of funeral? If you're against religious tolerance, how can you have the nerve to criticize the government's record in that respect?
Those people are dead, and your argument is not valid. And even if I hadn't looked out of the window, there are writings scratched on the walls in my cell. A man sits there with nothing to do, so he reads. Some of them make you think. They aren't so stupid.
What, for instance?
Down with tyranny, Colonel.
So, that's the way it is. It's reached that stage. And I suppose our regent, may he live forever, the uncle of our infant king, may he live forever, is an idiot.
I'm afraid so, Colonel.
Talk! Yes, come in.
Sir, the general's arrived, sir.
The general?
And there's a lieutenant with him.
Oh, my God.
Gentlemen, please come in.
So, this is the man.
Yes, sir, that's him.
He looks to me like the ringleader. Have you managed to find the rest of his gang?
Not yet, sir, but we're hunting them down systematically.
Dangerous bird. Did you find any explosive materials on him?
Not so far, sir, but we haven't given up hope.
He's more dangerous than I thought. He's dishonest. Good, straightforward revolutionaries always have a couple of pounds of dynamite on them. It looks to me as if we've caught their key man. What do you think, Lieutenant?
I agree, sir. If he's been searched and nothing's been found on him, it means there's more to this than meets the eye.
Colonel, allow me to present to you my ADC. I've just chosen him as my special advisor on revolutionary affairs and anti-government activity. He's an expert on that subject.
Sir, no, it's impossible, sir.
What's the matter with you?
Your Excellency, you must allow me to speak, sir. You've become the victim of a mistake, sir, or of a deliberate trick. This man...
Speak up, man.
He was the one who threw the bomb at you, sir.
Who?
Your present assistant and my former prisoner.
Yes, Colonel, please continue.
I swear to you, sir, I'm not mistaken. I know him well. For 10 years I used to interrogate him here in my office on this chair, sir. It is impossible that Your Excellency should have such an assistant.
What have you got to say, Lieutenant?
Oh, the Colonel's right, of course. I am his former prisoner. But you seem to have forgotten, Colonel, that I signed the Act of Allegiance and was released. His Excellency is perfectly well aware of all this.
But I know he signed the Act of Allegiance.
Yourself, Colonel. I knew it all along, and you can see that if I introduce the Lieutenant as an expert in matters concerning the fight against subversive activity, it is not without justification.
But the bomb! The bomb! I've still got it in my drawer.
My dear Colonel, everybody sometime has to throw some bomb at some general or other. The organism of the body demands it. The sooner you get it over, the better. As for me, I have complete confidence in my new assistant precisely because he has all this behind him. There are so many people who are still not satisfied this natural urge. You mustn't be angry if I ask you, Colonel, but have you ever thrown a bomb at a general?
Your Excellency.
You see? Neither have I. And therefore, if you'll forgive my saying so, I have more confidence in my assistant than I have in you, or even in myself. I promise you, Colonel, that if you want to be thought of as the ideal chief of police, part of your job should consist of taking precautions in case I should throw a bomb at myself. Have you thought about that?
No, sir.
You should think about it. The person of a general is the property of the state and the government, not of the individual who holds the rank. So any attempt of this sort, even on my part, must be considered an attack against the uniform of an officer, and so indirectly against the state. And if ever you should have to arrest me on this account, I trust you will remember that it was me that reported myself to you and brought this vital information to the notice of the chief of police. And in my trial, this will be considered an extenuating circumstance. That is the situation.
Yes. Quite so, sir.
To revert to our discussion of the lieutenant, I will tell you something else. He entered the service not long ago and came to us from a situation that was, I need hardly tell you, extremely different from our own. Already, he has achieved the rank of an officer. This requires some effort, as you can imagine. We must congratulate him on his keenness and hard work. We, Colonel, of the old guard, and have acquired our qualities of loyalty little by little. In him, a love for the government has exploded suddenly, fresh and pure, and concentrated by his long years of anti-government activities. As regards his qualifications for this present job, I can assure you that he is second to none in combating these same activities. Therefore, in expressing your dislike of him, you lay yourself open to the charge, groundless, I'm sure, of being jealous of him because of his lightning success.
I can promise you, sir.
Yeah, all right, don't worry. I brought him here specially because I knew we had a tricky case on our hands with this enemy of our infant king and his uncle the regent. Yes, it'll be quite a business, you can be sure. Shall we begin? Proceed, Lieutenant, if you please.
Allow me to suggest...
What, you again? You ought to be ashamed of yourself. This aversion of yours towards our young people is beginning to look suspicious.
I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed, Your Excellency. Both you and the Chief of Police. The matter will be quite short and simple.
Oh, you think so, do you?
I agree with the Colonel that you are overestimating the simplicity of the case. We know that as a result of the accused's incredible treachery and low cunning, we have no evidence of any substance against him. The extent of his subversive activity is borne out by his outburst concerning our regent, the uncle of our infant king, the outburst which immediately unmasked the criminal and became the grounds for his summary arrest. And if the criminal shouted out things like that at the top of his voice, how much more terrible must be the things that he's been carrying on in silence. Still, we do not possess the materials that would enable us to discover what the criminal has done. I need only mention the fact that no explosives were found on him. On what ground, then, do you consider that the case is short and simple?
I do not intend at this moment to point to the hostile acts which the prisoner has committed openly. But I can state quite categorically that such acts are to be found lurking in their full basis in the personality of the accused, and that even if they have not yet been carried out, they exist with the same reality as if they had been carried out. For we know, do we not, that time is one, and that it is not to be divided into time past and time present. And from the point of view of the investigation, it is the most clear and damning truth.
If you will allow me, General, 2 words.
But, of course, please.
I do not deny that we have to deal with an exceptionally dangerous criminal, and that those who have been claiming that the police have nothing to do deserve to be pitied, if not actually arrested. It seems to me, though, that the method employed by my colleague, the lieutenant, is the sign of an engaging, though perhaps over-rash belief in his own abilities, typical of the inexperienced.
Colonel, I thought I asked.
As far as I know, the criminal began his unusually intensive enemy activity after a long period of loyalty and even of cooperation with the government.
That is so, my young friend.
Well, we have then to deal with an exceptionally dangerous individual. It is a process analogical with the one which you, General, were so kind as to outline a moment ago when you were evaluating my career.
Yes.
That is to say, a process of contrary direction.
Indeed.
This man, at a comparatively late age, which leads to a sharpening of the symptoms, achieved his first sensual pleasures with the feeling that he was being persecuted. As you know, this feeling gives one an illusion of one's own importance and dignity. The same, in fact, in intensity, as the feeling of God-fearing loyalty and agreement with the prevailing viewpoints, although entirely different from it in its detail, of course. And this is why it is so extraordinarily attractive to people who have not yet experienced it.
I do not agree. This man is an abominable sort of criminal, that is obvious. But I do not see in what way he is worse than other such people who throw bombs at generals.
That damn bomb again.
I can assure you, Colonel, that this man is capable, without batting an eyelid, of throwing a bomb at 3 generals.
Prisoner, attention. Speak up now. Would you throw a bomb at the general?
Answer frankly and truthfully, Sergeant. Don't take any notice of me.
Well, no, sir. Of course, I might have a few strange ideas, I admit, about the railways and agriculture and things like that, but to throw a bomb at the general...
You see, gentlemen?
Look, imagine that you are taking a stroll on Sunday afternoon, and it so happens that you have a bomb with you.
Yes, sir.
You've taken it from your house, though you don't quite know why. Yes. Oh, all around you there are people, beautiful women, and suddenly you see a general.
A real one?
Behave yourself, Sergeant.
Right. Now, the general is walking straight towards you.
Yes, sir.
He doesn't turn aside, but keeps on walking straight.
Yes.
His medals are sparkling.
Yes.
His jackboots are shining.
Yes.
You feel that now you can pay him back for everything and that such a beautiful general won't come your way a second time.
For the last time, Sergeant.
Well...
No, I can't.
I hope you're satisfied, General.
To be quite frank, I am beginning to wonder why you are obstructing the investigation.
Me? Obstructing the investigation? Me?
That's how it looks to me. How important is it to you that nothing should be proved against this man?
I protest.
It seems clear to me that you're trying to hinder my assistant in his final unmasking of the criminal, in his laying bare of the full baseness of the man. I warn you that I may feel it my duty to discuss your position with the Regent, the uncle of our infant king.
And for my part, I should like to inform His Excellency that I possess adequate means to demonstrate to His Excellency the unprofitability of this sort of interference.
Are you threatening me?
I would not presume to do so, sir. I merely state that I am washing my hands of it, and that I will accept no responsibility for the further development of the matter in hand.
Very well. We shall return to our interrogation.
Thank you, sir. May I ask that the prisoner be removed for a moment?
Oh, certainly. Colonel, will you just...
Constable, take him out into the corridor. Bring him back when I ring.
Yes, sir. Come on, this way.
I still maintain that basically the accused is guilty of a bomb attack on the general. The problem is simply that he is a man of low intelligence and has too little imagination. But I have a plan.
We are listening.
In the colonel's desk, there is a bomb. The same one that at a certain time in the past I threw at the general. Oh, the bomb doesn't work, the best proof of which is the fact that the general is still here among us. I propose that we call the suspect in and give him this bomb.
Give him the bomb?
We will open the door, the general will go out into the corridor, and then I guarantee that when he has the bomb in his hands and sees the general standing opposite him, all his libertarian and anarchist instincts will be aroused. Unable to resist them any longer, he throws the bomb. In this way, we will acquire a dazzlingly clear proof of his extreme evil intentions and crimes in conditions as closely as possible approaching the natural.
But this is madness. What do you think about it, Colonel?
I think, sir, that your assistant, your chosen expert on these questions, and an officer of great promise in spite of his short record of service, is quite right. You should not lightly reject the idea of this experiment, General, and obstruct the investigation.
I repeat, the bomb is harmless. The detonator didn't make contact. At least last time it didn't.
So, Lieutenant, you think...
I am carrying out my duty and suggesting what I consider to be the most effective means of unearthing anti-government activities. I am an officer in the service of our infant king and his uncle the regent. May they live forever.
Well, I think you may be a little bit too smart, young man.
As a friend of yours, General, I would not advise any slackness in your conduct of this investigation. I may tell you in confidence that in the reports which I send direct to the regent, the uncle of our infant king, I shall be forced to describe in detail your relationship and attitude towards the police service, and in particular, your enthusiasm for unmasking the enemies of our infant king and his uncle the regent.
Show me the bomb. I must think.
Yes, it's the same bomb.
Definitely.
Quite definitely.
Well then, General, do you agree?
Are you suggesting, Colonel, that I'm being uncooperative? Please explain the situation to the prisoner.
Constable, bring in the prisoner.
Yes, sir. Come on, prisoner, this way.
You can go, Constable.
Yes, sir.
Prisoner?
Sir?
You are going to throw this bomb at the General.
What? Just like that?
The General will stand in the corridor, and you will be in here.
Can't we put it off until tomorrow?
Just as you like, General. Shall we consult the opinion of the government on the matter?
No, I'm going.
Now, you hold it like this.
Just a moment. General?
What?
Leave the door open, please. Otherwise he can't throw the bomb at you.
Oh, of course.
Thank you. Now, give the prisoner my mask. It should be in there in the drawer, with the bomb. The illusion must be complete.
Ready. Right, Lieutenant. Over to you.
Okay. Now you're strolling along.
Yes.
Beautiful women.
Yes, sir.
Over here where the colonel is standing, the sun is blazing in the sky.
Yes.
And there is the general.
Yes, sir.
His medals are sparkling.
Yes.
His jackboots are shining.
Yes, sir.
And now you think to yourself, at last you're paying back for everything.
Yes, sir.
You can see the general!
I suppose you like the General. As your superior officer, he always treated you with great courtesy.
Quite the opposite from the way in which he treated you. He seemed to ignore the fact that you have been the chief of police for years and years.
What would you say if I were to place you under arrest? You must admit this little matter of the bomb is, to say the least, doubtful.
Yes, I have to admit that. Doubtful to the extent that your part in it is extremely obscure. In that case, we will find ourselves in the curious situation of mutual arrest.
Young man, you will go far, but not so far as you think, and not towards my position, that of Chief of Police, but in precisely the opposite direction. I arrest you.
Fine. I'm afraid, that by acting in this way, you brought your career to a very sharp close. I must point out, sir, that your laughable attempts to charge me with the bomb attack can only turn themselves automatically to your disfavour.
And why should that be, my friend?
Very simply, old boy. You are accusing me of opposing the government and of attempted murder. They will ask you where you were when that certain lieutenant signed the Act of Allegiance and was released from prison. What sort of a chief of police would you be if the meanest convicted prisoner was able to pull the wool over your eyes? What sort of a security officer were you if you failed to spot his little game and simply released him from custody? And if you argue that you are right to release me because my repentance is genuine, you would be quite correct, since I really was and am sincere in my loyalty and entirely devoted to the government. However, in this way, you would bring to nothing your accusation against me of attempted murder and would place yourself in the ludicrous situation of a squalid intriguer. But to return to the point, what would you say if I were to arrest you?
Please do not think that the police are above arrest. On the contrary, arrest is above us. It is above everything. I am a policeman with a long record of service, so if you think that you can establish a case...
Of course I can. Now, this is how I see the situation. One of the most elementary duties of the head of the police is to protect generals against attacks by bombs. And what did you do? You personally pressed the bomb into the hands of the arrested revolutionary. You personally showed him how to throw it. It's frightful.
Have you gone mad? The whole thing was your suggestion.
Which you adopted with suspicious eagerness.
But only under pressure from you. It was you who wanted to do it. It was you who were so keen on that experiment with the bomb.
But I am not the head of the police. I repeat, what is the most elementary duty of the chief of police? Any fool will tell you. To protect generals against bomb attacks.
But the bomb ought never to have gone off. You told me yourself it was useless.
I've got nothing to do with it. You had no right to believe me.
And you assured me a moment ago that you were speaking the truth and that you're loyal to the government.
That is correct. I am loyal to the government. But you, as the chief of police, ought to know that the fact that something is correct doesn't necessarily have any special meaning. It can eventually have, or perhaps does have, an opposite meaning, depending on certain circumstances. You see? In spite of your record of long service, you can only understand the most primitive arguments.
All right. We will remain under mutual arrest until the situation is cleared up.
Oh, thank God.
General, you're alive.
I'm not such a fool. I went and hid in the lavatory.
I must point out that the chief of police outburst a moment ago must be considered as extremely incriminating. The astonishment expressed in the sentence of, "General, you're alive," shows that the chief of police was expecting, if not actually counting, on something else.
I'm afraid that I am forced to arrest both of you. There are two possibilities. Either it was an accident, or else one of you three wound up the detonator. Unfortunately, even we are not yet able to arrest accidents, so there remains the second possibility. The prisoner doesn't count because he is already under arrest.
Thank you, sir.
So I am left with you, two gentlemen.
Precisely. The lieutenant's past record will doubtless give the tribunal plenty to think about.
The members of the Court of Inquiry will doubtless see the chief of police's motives as a classic example of their type. Leaving aside for the moment the real, more serious charges that he must face, I imagine that he intends to compromise the General's assistance. It is an understandable desire, but it arises from feelings that are purely personal and have nothing in common with the service of our government.
I regret to inform you, General, that in the name of this government of yours, I must place you under arrest.
Me? What for?
For irresponsibly exposing the uniform of a general to attacks by bombs. You are under suspicion of condoning subversive conduct. It was you who aroused my sense of duty in this matter, and that will be regarded as mitigating circumstance at your trial.
We still haven't sorted out the question of whether a policeman who has arrested an individual with whom he finds himself in a state of mutual arrest, like the chief of police is with me, is able to arrest a third individual by whom he was at some time previously arrested, together with the first individual to whom he is united by the first double action of arrest.
Persons under arrest are not permitted to express an opinion.
The same to you, Colonel.
It looks, gentlemen, as if the police now have plenty of work on their hands.
You're mad. You're mad. Long live freedom!
We offer Hugh David as Richard Dukes and Einan Evans as Inspector Probert in Murder on the Agenda by Einan Evans. Murder on the Agenda.
Now may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Ghost dwell richly in our hearts and be with those who mourn this day, now and forevermore. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Oh, hello, Sergeant.
Ah, Mr. Dukes, I saw you from the car. It was good of you to come.
Not at all. It would have been most odd for me to have stayed away. You remember Gwen Harris, of course, John Griffiths, Albert Thomas, Bernard Howells?
Of course. I'm so pleased you were able to get here.
Well, as Richard said, Sergeant, it would be odd if any of us stayed away.
Oh, yes. Good friends. I'm sure George would have been pleased.
Let's say he is pleased, Father.
Yes, I mean that.
We are pleased, too. I knew that Mr. Dukes would be coming, of course, and I rather hoped that the rest of you... Well, thank you.
It's not easy to find anything to say, Anne.
I know that. Nor do we know how we feel exactly. I suppose it's a blessing in a way. You will come back to the house?
Not now, Anne. They're all coming back to my flat.
We thought chat about old times.
We don't meet as often as we should.
We'll call in tomorrow, maybe.
You'll be welcome at any time.
Yes, you'll be very welcome. Thank you again for coming.
Sergeant Price, what a beautiful service. Very fitting, if I may say so. Bitter blow, Sergeant, a bitter blow. And yet, remembering how the boy suffered all those years.
They'll be all right now, boys. We can go.
Well, I must say the old gent's taking it very well. And Anne's been a real brick. It must be a relief to both of them. And yet, at a time like this...
Is that you, Mr. Dukes?
Yes, Mattie, I'm back.
How many are you?
5.
Oh, I reckoned on 5. Well, come in, all of you, and get yourselves warm.
Thank you, sir.
I've cut plenty of sandwiches, and the kettle is on the boil.
How are you, Mrs. Roy?
Oh, it was very good of you all to come. Now, you make yourselves at home while I get the tea. I closed this because of the draft.
Well, drink, anyone? I think I could manage a whiskey.
Beer for me.
Well, help yourselves. Time for a cup of tea.
Same here.
Oh, well, it was a nice service. More people there than I expected.
Yes, quite a crowd. You'd think that people would have forgotten poor old George. Stuck away for 5 years.
Anne took it very well, I thought. Oh, she's a sensible girl. She knows that George is much better off. They all are.
Good Lord, yes.
Still, George was her husband, and it's bound to be a bit of a shock. Twice a week down that confounded asylum for 5 years. In all that time, he hardly spoke to her. Must have been heartbreaking.
I don't know how she stuck it. I used to go down now and again. You know, I felt I had to, but it seemed so pointless. He never said a word. I never felt I was doing any good.
Well, Anne never had any doubts about that. About doing him good, I mean. She always knew that George was glad to see her, even though he might not speak at all.
It must have been pretty frustrating for all that.
Well, sometimes he would talk, and then he'd seem almost normal. He'd yap away about the winding path to Tredoman, or the fishing in the Gledier.
You were a pretty frequent visitor yourself, John. More so than the rest of us.
Oh, yes, I went whenever I could.
I found it so devilishly difficult, and I always got so depressed. Just seeing the poor old chap sitting there like a mummy, wide-eyed and taut.
I dare say visiting was a bit easier for John. I mean...
Yes, maybe it was. I like being with Anne. Is that what you mean?
Oh, come now, old boy.
No, why shouldn't you? I've never denied that I like being with Anne. I hope she liked being with me, too. Whether she's as fond of me as I am of her is another matter. I've never asked her.
Well, I'm quite sure, John, that you've been a real friend to Anne.
Well, I think she needed a friend. Believe me, boys, Anne's devotion to a man, dead in every sense of the word, was as splendid as it was pathetic. Now, well, I hope to make up to Anne for some of the years she's lost. If she'll have me, I'll marry her. Perhaps this is hardly the time to talk about it, but you might as well know where I stand.
Well, yes, as you say, John, this may not be the time to talk about such things, but nobody here is surprised at what you say. And I hope things will work out for you. I wonder if he ever said anything about the camp.
Well, not in my hearing. I don't suppose he remembered anything at all about it.
Oh, on the contrary, I doubt if he ever forgot it. I don't pretend to know much about these mental cases, but most of them seem happy enough. But with George, no. Unsmiling, silent, haunted. I have a horrible conviction that he lived down in that camp, that he never got away from it.
Not a very pleasant thought.
Well, we never understand these things, and maybe we are often influenced by what we think ourselves. But whenever I visited George, the whole thing had come back to me. The careful plans, the last-minute check-up, crawl through the tunnel, and the reception party waiting for us.
And Bill Brockington's face as the Jerry's marched us back in.
And George's screams as they tortured him.
God. Here we are, then. I'm sure you can all do with it. Was it a nice funeral?
There were quite a number of people there, Mattie.
How did Anne and Mother take it?
Very sensibly.
Well, they've been faithful enough, and nobody can say different. Not that it isn't a blessed relief to both of them, and to poor George. Yes, indeed. You might say that the poor chap has taken 5 years to die.
Yes, Mrs. Morris. And that's about the truth of it. Well, come on, help yourselves, boys. Come on, pitch in.
You must be feeling it a bit too, all 5 of you.
Well, we're all glad to know that George is out of his misery, Mattie.
Oh, so am I. For all that, there's something so final about a funeral, and one can't help feeling sorry for old Maddock and for Anne.
You've done your share of comforting, Mattie.
Oh, I've just given a hand with the food and things, that's all. And that's where I'm going now, down to the Price's house to clear up things for them. Look, after you finish, just put these dishes in the kitchen, will you? And I'll do them in the morning. Well, I'd say good evening to you all, then.
Well,
good evening.
Thank you. Good night, Mattie.
Well, she's one out of the bag, isn't she? You're lucky to have her, Richard.
Oh, a bachelor is entitled to some compensation.
Well, I'm a bachelor, and I'm not so lucky with my housekeeper.
Well, Mattie isn't exactly my housekeeper, you know. She has her own family to look after.
She suits you, I should say.
Oh, yes. I like to have the place to myself in the evenings.
By the way, Richard, isn't that play of yours due on this week?
Yes, Thursday at 8:30.
It's all about our experiences in prison camp, isn't it?
Well, it's a play about prison camp, yes, but I try to deal with the lighter side, the fun and the frolic.
You must have a vivid imagination, Richard.
What's that, Bernard? Hey, come out of that corner. You're too near my whiskey bottle.
Oh, I want beer.
Now then, what were you saying?
I said you must have a vivid imagination. I don't remember any fun and frolic.
Well, there was the football team, Bernie, old boy. And the cricket.
Yeah, not forgetting the thespians. I'll never forget the night Richard split his pants.
What about John in Pygmalion?
Oh, you, Albert, playing the tarty piece in, what was the name of the play?
I remember. Look here. When do we cut the cackle, boys, and start talking? And there are things to be discussed, aren't there? I take it you all know what I mean. Or do you or don't you?
We all know what you mean, Bernie. The point is, do we want a discussion?
You don't, is that it?
Oh, I didn't say that.
Richard?
Well, I suppose we can have a discussion, Bernie. Whether or not we shall all be thinking on the same lines is another matter.
Brockington wasn't at the funeral, was he?
I shouldn't think so.
Had there been flowers, he would have sent a big wreath in one of his limousines.
Well, come on, Richard. You're the captain. Let's get talking, shall we?
All right, boys, all right. I'll try to put something into words. Now, in this play of mine on Thursday night, I've tried to paint a picture of the lighter side of our life in prison camp. And to write this, I had to dig pretty deeply. The hell I remember vividly. And there's no doubt in our minds as to what was the most hellish part of all.
5 years is a long time to remember a man's screams in the night. But I hear them over and over again.
But why only George? That's what's always puzzled me.
If they'd got us together for torture, we'd have given each other moral support. Besides, George was the leader.
I remember one night in particular. They must have given him a rest during the day, and then, just after lights out, they started. Oh, what the hell.
Oh, don't let's rake it all up. Get to the point, Richard.
Well, it was obvious to us all that Bill Brockington had split on us. If we needed any proof, then the look on his face when the Jerrys marched us back into the camp would have given it us. He told the guards all he knew, but he didn't know enough. George had all the escape plan locked in his mind, so they tortured him until he cracked up. And the 5 of us swore, didn't we, that if George died, Bill Brockington would die too.
If we'd killed him there and then, it would have been easy.
And it's not so easy now, eh?
Well, is it?
Lots of water has gone under the bridge. Time mellows.
Well, not for me, it doesn't. I hate the swine today as much as I did then.
We all hate him, Bernie. But what do you propose we should do? Go out and shoot him?
Might be as good an idea as any.
There's a price to pay for that sort of thing.
Bigger than the price George paid?
Well, maybe not.
Now, look, boys, don't let's fall out with each other. Let's discuss the whole thing calmly, if we can. I suppose we can be called respectable citizens, and some of you have families. Cold-blooded killing seems rather remote from us all. Do we feel as strongly now as we did 5 years ago? And if we do, can we implement those feelings? Are we going to say now that we want to kill this man?
And if we say yes, Richard, what then? Somebody has to do the job. Somebody has to go along to Brockington's house, take out a gun and shoot him. Or a knife and stab him. Those are the cold facts.
And if we say no, Richard, what then? If we say that all this was a long time ago, the war's over and forgotten. George Price has taken 5 years to die, but he rests in peace at last. We go home tonight and put our heads on a pillow and thank God for our homes, our comforts, prosperity, and what have you. And do we forget about the torture, about our oath, about the swine we swore to kill? Just drop off to sleep? Oh, no, not tonight we won't. Not for many nights to come. If you heard his screaming in the night, You won't hear it any less just because George is under the sod.
Anyone else? There's a lot in what Bernie says.
Well, if none of you chaps feel as I do...
We haven't all had our say, Bernie.
So I notice.
Nobody here has any love for Brockington, Bernie. But snake that he is, the law is bound to catch up with him. Would you be prepared to take a rap? Is he worth hanging for?
That's not the point.
Or perhaps we wouldn't be found out. Perhaps Bernie thinks we could cook up an ingenious scheme.
It wouldn't be the first scheme we've cooked, would it?
What have you to say, Richard?
Oh, what can I say? I'm a writer. But I couldn't think up a more ludicrous situation than this. 5 staid, respectable men discussing whether or not they'll take another man's life. Murder on the agenda. All in favor say aye, have another drink and good night. On the other hand, we took an oath. Maybe the oath as such is not all that important, but we have to meet up with Brockington. He lives in this village. And then there's Anne. I see her every day, and you all see her fairly often. And George's father, the old sergeant. We meet him, too. I don't suppose we shall ever be able to wipe out the memory of that suffering, nor shall we ever forget what we swore to do.
That's what I mean. It's not going to be easy, but what's the alternative? I should be haunted.
Don't let's get melodramatic.
I'm saying what I think, Quinn. You may be afraid to kill this man. I should be afraid to let him live. Of course, there may be consequences. But anyone scared of them shouldn't be involved.
Sit down, Bernie. Be cool. Albert.
No one could hate the louse more than I do. But can we just take the law into our own hands? Somebody would actually have to do this. One of us. What do we do? Draw lots?
Yes. What did you say, Richard? I said we would draw lots. You can't be serious. I'm serious in this respect. If we're contemplating doing this thing at all, then the whole venture would have to be planned.
You've got some ideas, Richard?
Well, let me put it like this. A decision will have to be made. Even if we dismiss the whole thing, we still have to agree to dismiss it. But if we decide the oath has to stand, I suggest a plan.
All right, let's hear it.
Oh, wait a bit. We haven't decided anything yet.
Well, let's hear the plan anyhow.
Sure, let's hear it. It should be interesting to know how to commit the perfect crime, even if we have no intention of committing it.
The obvious alternative to murder is suicide. If Bill Brockington decides to shoot himself, I can at least provide the gun.
That's a Luger.
Well, we're not very impressed so far, Richard. The Luger's commonplace enough.
But this one belongs to Bill Brockington. His initials are on the butt. And since Brockington will have marked other souvenirs in the same way, there won't be much doubt about the ownership. If you remember, boys, that was a hobby of his, carving initials. He did it rather expertly.
You mean that one of us should shoot Brockington with his own gun?
That's part of the plan.
How did you get hold of the gun, Richard?
Accidentally. We all had our share of war souvenirs, and mine got mixed up with Brockington's. Had we been on better terms, I might have handed it over.
Before you go any further, Richard, I think there's one thing we should keep in mind. If anything happens to Brockington, somebody's going to remember that we were all in that hellhole together.
Of course.
Well, it doesn't sound very healthy, does it?
Not unless we can arrange a perfect alibi.
For whoever does the killing?
No. For the lot of us.
This drawing lots, is it part of the plan, Richard, that none of us shall know who did the shooting?
That's it.
Go on from there, Richard.
We put 5 papers in a hat with a cross on one of them. Well, that's straightforward enough.
Then this alibi.
On Thursday night, my play goes out on television. Well, what more natural than that we should all meet here to see it? A most suitable occasion for a reunion. The play starts at 8:30, and you'd all leave your homes, allowing enough time to get here by 8:15. I would spend the early part of the evening in the Red Lion and leave there at about 8:10.
Well, that's clear enough.
But nobody arrives here at the appointed time, not even me. What we each do will be our own affair, as long as we keep out of sight. Now, we all get here at 9 o'clock, or thereabouts, by which time the man with the cross will have shot Brockington and placed the gun in his hand.
I see. Then we'd all swear that we arrived here at 8:15.
And nobody would know whom we were protecting. Not even us.
Well, find the snags thus far, boys.
There are none.
Not so fast, Bernie. Why do you have to be out of the house, Richard, when you're the host?
2 reasons. I have to let people know that I'm expecting you, and I may be the one to draw the cross.
Oh, yes, of course.
Next?
How can we be sure where to find Brockington?
Well, the chances are 100 to 1 that He'll be watching this play, too.
There is the obvious snag, of course. We could be questioned about the play.
I have some spare copies. You have 3 days to study the first 30 minutes of the script.
Then some policeman will ask us about a technical hitch. We'll try to talk round it, and then he'll tell us there wasn't one.
Oh, I think I can knock out with that side of it. If there is a hitch, then I'll know about it.
It's a good idea, boys. Simple but ingenious. We can all be depended upon to protect the man with a gun, and we won't know who it is we are protecting. We arrive half an hour late and swear we came on time.
But don't you think, Richard, that an alibi for 5 people is more of a pill than an alibi for 1?
Well, if we know who does the job, a clever detective might trap us into giving him away. But if we don't know...
There must be some snags.
Well, maybe there are, but we have time to look for them. Mind you, I'm not saying that we should do this thing. All I say is, if we decide to go ahead, then we must look after ourselves. Now then, what about you?
Thank you. It was kind of you to come. Oh, dear, Mrs. Bevan's a kindly woman, but she does talk.
Never mind. That's the last of them. I'll get a nice quiet cup of tea before I go.
Oh, no, I don't want any tea, thank you, Mattie.
It's not what you want, Murphy, but what you're going to get.
You've been on your feet all day, Matty.
Then I'll be sitting down with you in just 2 minutes. I've got it all ready.
Tired, Murphy?
It's been a bit of a day.
For me, too. I suppose in a few days we'll realize that this is a blessing for us all, but we're bound to feel a bit empty at first.
Yes. Yes, I think that's the word. Empty.
I marvel at you, Angela. Many girls in your position would be as bitter as gall.
Being bitter won't help, will it?
10 years of marriage, 2 of them your husband spends in a prison camp and 5 in an asylum.
I try to think of the happy 3.
I'm not one for talking, Anne, but I'm not blind to how good you've been.
You've been pretty good yourself, Dad.
Here we are, then. Fresh pot of tea and some tasty sandwiches. Huh?
I don't think so.
Come on. Maddock. Isn't it funny, Maddock? I always call you that when you haven't got your old uniform on. But when you're in your buttons, I call you Sergeant, sort of automatic.
The inspector always said it was a mistake to leave me in my old village. Too familiar, he said, but I managed to keep the peace.
Oh, indeed, yes. There, now, come on, eat, both of you. Lucky I put some of this ham away, or those Gormans would have polished the lot.
No wonder, Matty. You pressed the man up.
You know, I sometimes think it's all wrong to turn a funeral into a feast. But on the other hand, I suppose some people come from a long way and they have to eat. After all, there's nothing disrespectful in a nice bit of boiled ham. Now, come on, eat, both of you. It's no use neglecting your stomachs. I know it's hard for both of you. You to lose a husband, Anne, and you, Maddock, to lose a son. But the poor boy is better off, and it's a blessing for all three.
Right, now, all set, boys? I'm sorry this has to be so theatrical, but if we're not to know who takes the gun, it has to be done this way.
The gun's loaded, of course?
Yes, it is. So I've put it in the glove box out in the hall, and I've closed the lid. The only man to open the lid will be the man with the cross. Each man will go out into the hall in turn, closing the door behind him. Then the man with the cross will open the glove box quietly, take the gun and go. Okay?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then we meet on Thursday as arranged. Right. Come on, Bernie, shake that hat, will you?
All right.
Right. Gwyn, you shall have first pick.
Well, I needn't look at it until I'm in the hall.
And then close the front door as you leave. Then we'll know you're gone. Good night.
Night.
Good night, boys.
Albert, I'm glad you were able to come along.
Mm. Good night, boys.
Your turn, Bernie.
Yes. All right. I'll see you Thursday, then. You're at 8:15, you said?
For the record, yes.
Good night.
John. About Anne. She thinks a lot of you. Anything I can do to help you at any time?
Oh, you've already been a great help to her.
Oh, nonsense. She's a good secretary. She's a big help to me. Well, your turn.
I've got a horrible feeling that I'm going to pick that cross.
Shall I pick before you?
No. I'll take it as it comes. As you say, Richard, this is a bit theatrical. If it's jolly effective. I'll see you on Thursday. Good night.
Oh, well. Are you still here, Anne?
I'm nearly through.
Oh. Well, how goes it?
I think you'll want to make several cuts.
Very likely.
There's no hurry for this, is there?
Oh, no, none at all.
Oh, I'd like to get home before Dad.
Yes, of course. How is he?
Splendid. But just for a day or two, I'd like to be there when he gets home.
Yes, of course. I told you not to come to work at all. I'm not busy.
Oh, I'd prefer to work. So would he.
You're very devoted to your father-in-law, Anne.
He's devoted to me. Well, it's not surprising, is it, when we both felt so strongly about George?
No, perhaps not. Well, don't come into work if you don't feel like it.
How did rehearsals go?
Oh, the usual jumble. I marvel that it ever sorts itself out.
You still think I ought not to see the play?
I wouldn't advise it, Anne. Under the circumstances, I don't particularly want to see it myself. It's been put on at the wrong time for us all.
Look, nobody could have known that George was going to die. I hope it goes all right. Oh, by the way, the vicar phoned. His set has broken down, and he wondered if you might come here to see the play.
Well, what did you tell him?
Well, I said I thought you wouldn't mind.
Well, quite.
But I told him that Bernard Howells would be here, and since those two are not very fond of each other...
What did you say?
Well, I don't think he'll come.
You're not sure?
Maybe he'll give you a ring. Well, good night then, Richard. See you tomorrow.
Only if you feel like it. And look after Maddock.
He looks after me.
No exchange? Ah, hello, Mary. Get me 3-2, will you, please?
The vicarage?
Oh, hello, Vicar. Anne told me that you rang.
Oh, yes. My old set has broken down again, dear boy. I really think I should pension it off.
Well, you can come along here with pleasure. We'll be glad to have you join our little party.
Yes, Anne mentioned something about a party.
Well, hardly a party. Just a few of the chaps who were with me in the prison camp. We thought we might like to see the play together.
Oh, my dear Richard, I wouldn't dare intrude.
Oh, come, Vicar. I'm sure my friends will conduct themselves most respectfully.
Exactly. That's why I ought to stay away.
Well, really, I don't think...
No. You have your party, Richard. As a matter of fact, I'm going along to another friend's house, Inspector Enoch Probert.
All the way to Newby?
It's not far, dear boy, and I owe the inspector a visit.
Oh, well, if you're quite sure, then...
Yes. I'll call in tomorrow evening and let you know what I think of it.
Do that. I'll have cleared away the empties.
Good. Well, thanks for ringing. I hope it goes well, dear boy.
Whew.
For heaven's sake, Jean, turn that thing down. I'm trying to phone. No, I said 5-9. That's the Bryn Mill garage, isn't it? Come on.
All the bad-tempered things. Anyone would think I did it deliberately. Have you ever had a puncture?
Yes, my dear, I had one last Friday. And like a fool, I left the flat in the boot. But if you'd told me when I got home about your puncture, I'd have repaired it. You knew I was going out.
I do now.
Bryn Mill garage.
Oh, hurry. I've got a flat. 2 flats. And I've got to get to Getty Dowell. Can you run me over?
Okay, in 15 minutes.
Oh, I could repair the puncture in that time. I want to go at once.
Okay, I'll send the boy.
Thanks.
Such a fuss. The play doesn't start until 8:30.
I keep telling you, we've all arranged to meet at 15:15. It'll take me 10 minutes to drive in.
Why didn't you phone John Griffiths and ask him to pick you up?
Why should I drag John out here?
It isn't much out of his way.
Oh, don't nag, Jean, just because I'm going out for one night.
I'm not nagging.
Heaven only knows I don't go out very often.
And I'm jolly glad you don't. All this fuss. Must be there at 15:15, hiring a car to take you. You'll all have a drink after the play, I dare say. So why should you be in such a tearing hurry to get to Richard Duke's place hours before the thing starts?
We arranged to meet at 8:15.
It seems a stupid idea to me, anyhow. Meeting together to watch a play. Why couldn't you see it with me?
Oh, dear, it's big work. TV 8:30. Don't forget to watch.
What else will I do, stuck here on my own?
I'll be home soon after 10, and as sober as a judge, cross my heart. TV, don't forget.
Good evening, sir. Oh, Mr. Griffiths, is it?
Oh, good evening, George. It's all right to leave my car there, I suppose.
Well, it's the official car park, as you might say. Not that it gets overcrowded, as you can see.
No.
Something on in the village hall makes a difference, mind you. And I can remember a night back last winter.
What time is it, George?
Oh, the church clock is dead right.
Yes, maybe it is, but I can't quite see it in the dark.
About 10 past, I'd say. Fair play for Ted Coity ever since he took charge of that there clock. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, indeed. I'll keep an eye on the car, sir. Depend on me.
Well, I'll be back about 10, I should think.
There's one thing about this car park, mind you.
Well, I must be going, boys.
What's the hurry, Mr. Duke? It's been all good to see your play in the long room.
I've got some friends coming in. They're due any minute.
Bring them along here, then.
Well, maybe we'll come in after the play. I hope you enjoy it, boys.
Oh, we usually do.
Oh, good evening, Sergeant.
Oh, good evening, Mr. Dukes. I thought you had a play on the telly tonight.
That's right. 8:30.
Oh, I always thought that you'd have to be down at the studio place seeing to things.
Well, I've been down to the rehearsals, but I prefer to see the show at home. In any case, I've got some friends coming in.
Now, how do I know about that?
Anne told you.
No. Oh, yes. It was P.C. Ben Thomas told me. He bumped into Bernard Howells in the mart, and he happened to mention it. You're having a little get-together.
That's right. You feeling all right?
Pretty good, considering. I'd rather be on duty anyhow.
What's the time?
Just coming up to 1:15, or would you call it down? Ah, there she goes.
Well, my visitors will be waiting on the doorstep. Good night, Sergeant.
Good night.
The cross, Skitty Dowell. Are you late, conductor? No, sir. 8:15 will do ya. Oh, thanks. Good night. Good night, sir.
This is BBC Television. And now for our play, which is No Iron Bar the Cage by Richard Dukes.
Oh, blast.
Yes? Hello. Brockington here. Hello. Yes, William Brockington. Oh, what the hell?
If you're happy, like if your mother-in-law's got some bumps or something. And Harry, pull up them tights, old chap. How do you think you're going to seduce the commandant with your tights like a ruddy concertina? Now then, for the love of Mike, let's have it a bit more cheerful, with a 1 and a 2 and a 3.
Who's there? What do you want? Get back. Keep away. I'll call the police.
Is that you, Bernard? Yes, just made it.
Oh, I think I saw Gwyn just going.
Ah, come in, boys, come in. They're on the stroke.
Are we all here?
Except for Gwyn. You didn't close the door?
No.
Good. Well, sit down, John. Help yourself to a drink, Bernie.
Thanks.
Albert, what do you have?
Oh, I'll switch on the set.
I crossed the allotments and came to the little wicket gate.
We don't have to account for our movements, John. I thought that was understood.
Well, I simply mentioned that I crossed the allotment.
I think it's safe to keep off that track altogether. We've all been here since 20 past 8. Now, let's get that fixed so firmly in our mind we believe it ourselves.
All right, Bernie, all right. Don't be so damned edgy.
Where the devil's Gwyn?
Well, it's only just on 9.
Ah, this is him. All right, Gwyn?
Yes. I'll close the door. Is that all right?
Yes, you're the last.
I couldn't get across the road. 2 chaps on bikes stood nattering.
They didn't see you?
No, I made sure of that. What about the set?
It's warming up. Apart from where you've been and what you've been doing, has anyone anything to say? Nothing? Good. Now, you're all quite sure that you haven't been seen during the last half hour?
I'm sure.
I made quite certain.
Well, I was dropped outside this door at 8:15 exactly, and I'm quite sure that nobody has seen me since.
Nobody saw me.
Fine. I had one little upset. The vicar's got trouble with his set, and he phoned to ask if he could come here.
Good Lord. Well, how did you put him off?
But you couldn't put him off. Damn it, that'd muck up the whole thing.
Don't worry. I pressed him to come. But when I explained that we had a little party, he excused himself.
Oh, but things have crop up.
But it serves to suit us as it happens. The fact that you pressed the vicar to come, Richard, is a further proof that we were meeting to see the play.
Yes, that's true. Oh, by the way, we'd better watch the play, haven't we?
I'll be right. Either we got a shift to ready the car or repaint the cloth.
How many clothes do you think I can paint? I'm right out of Ecriff Levine anyhow, and I don't pinch any more pupper men shoes the commandants used it all for the drawings.
Why don't we have a magic carpet, then we can blame the Pennington against the sky?
How long should we wait here, Richard? The play's been over for half an hour now.
Well, I think we should wait another half hour or so and then leave rather noisily. I hope you saw enough of the play to know what it's all about.
Well, I'm afraid I'd be a bit shaky if I were questioned about it. I wasn't concentrating.
And you should say as little as possible.
Well, who remembers the play in detail, anyhow?
Well, I've read it, so I know it fairly well.
What about technical hitches, Richard?
I don't think there could have been any. It finished on time, didn't it?
May I put a point, Richard?
Yes, by all means. Now's the time for a check-up.
Well, I don't think we can depend on this suicide angle. We've done what we can to make it look like suicide, at least I assume we have, but the police have means nowadays of finding out about such things.
We knew from the start that there was a pretty good chance of us coming under suspicion.
And our scheme is foolproof.
Well, I'm only anxious that we should take every precaution.
Well, we've done that. Don't let's hold an inquest.
What's tickling you, Bernie?
Well, it's an odd situation, isn't it? We've all been involved in killing a man, and only one of us knows if he's dead.
Well, let's drink to success, boys.
Yeah.
A toast, gentlemen. A toast to the police. May they have calm, untroubled minds.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Gessley Dowell, 22.
Oh, hello, Richard. You've not heard the news?
What news, Vicar?
About poor Bill Brockington. He's committed suicide.
Committed suicide? Good heavens, when did this happen?
Sometime this evening. I was having supper with Inspector Enoch Probert, and he was called out.
Have you seen the inspector since?
No, I stayed here to finish my coffee, and he phoned me later.
Well, what are the details?
Well, it seems that Brockington was watching your play. The set was still on when the inspector got to his house. He'd shot himself through the head.
Good heavens.
Yes, well, I'm just about to go home now, but I thought I'd let you know.
Yes, thanks. It was kind of you. It's a bit of a shock, isn't it?
Indeed it is. Well, good night then, Richard.
Thank you for ringing, Vicar. Good night. Through the head. He shot himself through the head. Well, let's hope it stays that way. If not, let's hope the plan is as good as we think it is.
I think we're just about finished here now, sir.
Good.
We'll take the gun to the lab, of course.
Of course.
We'll go then, sir.
I'll stay for a while to nose around. You stay with me, Sergeant.
Stay, sir?
I mean Sergeant Maddox Price. He knows more about this village and the people than any man alive. That's right, isn't it, Sergeant?
You know the village pretty well yourself, Inspector.
See you later, sir.
Yes, I'll be down at the local station. Well, Maddox, a bit of an upset, isn't it?
It is indeed, sir.
Nice room. I wouldn't have thought that Mr. Brockington had such taste. Have you ever been here before, Maddox?
Not in this room, sir.
This is a nice bit of illegal war souvenir, isn't it?
German, I suppose, sir.
Nice bit of engraving on the case, too. W.B. Brockington seemed to have been very clever at this sort of thing.
Yes, it's very nicely done.
Gave him something to do when he was in that prison camp, I suppose.
Surprising what those chaps turned their hands to, sir.
Brockington turned his hand to other things, so I'm told.
So I understand, sir. I mean, well, I don't suppose it's any secret that Brockington wasn't a very popular man.
Your son, for one, wouldn't have been very fond of him?
George never mentioned him, Inspector, but he never mentioned anyone else either.
I was very sorry to hear about George, Maddox.
You were always very kind to inquire about him, sir.
I don't suppose it was odd that he should be looking at the play. Mr. Brockington, I mean.
I'd say it was a natural thing for him to do.
Knowing Richard Dukes and knowing something of the true story behind the play.
I don't think Mr. Dukes was a friend of his, Inspector.
No, maybe not. Say, what do you think about this, Maddox?
Me, sir?
You knew Brockington.
You knew him too, sir.
I'm asking you.
Well, Inspector, it looks as if he's committed suicide, as far as I can see, anyway. But I wouldn't have said he was the type to kill himself.
It's always a bit of a bother, Sergeant, when the facts quarrel with convictions. Of course, the lab boys may tell us that this wasn't suicide at all.
And that wouldn't surprise you, sir?
It wouldn't surprise you either. Tell me, did you see the play last night, Maddox?
No, sir. It wasn't the kind of thing I'd want to see just now.
Of course not. I understand. Well, I don't think there's anything else I want to see here. We'll keep the room closed, Sergeant.
Yes, sir. I'll put a constable on duty, sir.
Good man. I must say that the village looks as clean and as fresh as it always did. It was always surprising to me that so many of the before.
Well, if it's all the same to you two, I'm off. My old man will think that I've left him. And that would be what you'd call wishful thinking.
It's your own fault that you're late, Mattie.
Oh, maybe it is. I wanted to finish the bedroom, then I can have a day off on Saturday. You just coming on, Van?
Oh, you go along, Mattie. Don't worry.
Oh, who can this be now? Well, whoever it is, I'm not staying. I never thought to be as late as this. Do you with Inspector Enoch Crawford?
Hello, Mrs. Morris. Is Mr. Dukes in?
Well, did you want to see him?
That's why I called.
Oh, you'd better come in. The police?
Oh. Hello, Inspector. Come in. Come right in.
Thank you.
You know him, of course, Mrs. Price.
Yes, certainly.
How do you do, Inspector?
I was very sorry to hear about your husband, Mr. Price.
Thank you. You knew George, of course.
Oh, yes. I spent several years in Gatley Dowell when I was a constable. One remembers the happy times. Don't leave on my account.
Oh, I was just going, anyway.
Is it all right for me to go, Mr. Dukes?
I think so, Mattie. I doubt if the inspector has come to arrest me.
I'll get your coat on.
Oh, if you will, Mattie. I just want to stick some of these stamps on. My gloves are in the glove box.
Right-o.
Sit down, Inspector.
Thank you. This business of Brockington is upsetting, isn't it?
For whom, Inspector?
Well, in such a quiet village.
I don't think there are many villagers shedding tears over Brockington, Inspector. So why should we pretend that the affair is upsetting? Speaking for myself, I shan't spare him a sigh.
Well, that's frank enough. And what about you, Mrs. Price?
You probably know my story, Inspector. I'm glad that Mr. Brockington is dead.
Oh, well, it's nice to know where we all stand.
Well, I'm taking the post, Richard. Good evening, both.
Now, good evening.
Good night, Anne.
You'd better put this on, I think, Merky. It gets quite chilly at this time of the day, and I don't...
Well, it's nice to see you, Inspector, but to what am I indebted, etc., etc., etc.
Can't I just be sociable?
I suppose you could if you tried.
Well, for one thing, I wanted to tell you that I enjoyed your play.
Good. I always counted you one of my fans.
Yes, it was good. It seemed so real. Not that I was ever in a prison camp myself, but one could believe in it. It had a ring of authenticity.
The author is always to colour the truth a little for dramatic effect.
But only delicately coloured it, I should say. That slight, almost imperceptible exaggeration.
You should have been a writer yourself.
I nurse a secret ambition. One of these days, I'll break out and use my creative genius on one of my dullest reports.
Yes, well, now then, tell me why you've come.
I'm inquiring into the death of Mr. Bill Brockington.
Obviously. But why inquire here?
My dear Richard, we inquire everywhere. We travel along unlikely and uninteresting tracks.
Sometimes we stumble on something which leads to something else, but in the main we just retrace our steps unrewarded.
Pretty dull.
Dull and frustrating. Lots and lots of routine, fingerprints, photographs, interviews, examination of reports, and putting 2 and 2 together to make 3.5.
But science is your ally nowadays.
Science gives us this 3.5, but it's the missing half that counts. And, as often as not, that's the something we just stumble upon.
And what are you hoping to stumble upon here?
We're looking for 1 or 2 things.
Such as?
A reason for Brockington to have committed suicide. Can you help me there?
No, I wouldn't have thought him that kind of a man. What next?
If he didn't shoot himself, then we would like to know who did.
You're asking me?
For any information which might help.
I haven't any. I might have considered doing the job myself 5 years ago.
Why?
Well, come now, Inspector, you know the prison camp story. That's why you called here. But hate, like love, mellows with the years. I'm not sorry for what's happened to Brockington, but I wouldn't have taken any risks for him. So don't look for a dramatic confession from me.
Do you think he might have been murdered?
I'm assuming that you think so.
Life gets increasingly difficult for a policeman, Richard. The more we learn about crime, the more the criminals learn. A young scallywag who wants to steal a bicycle nowadays will wear a pair of gloves. What's the use of our elaborate equipment for testing for fingerprints if the crooks leave none behind?
Yes, I should think that even the most modest crook is pretty wary about fingerprints nowadays.
In this case, there are no prints.
Tell me, Inspector, what leads you to conclude that this was not a case of suicide?
Did I say it wasn't?
You imply it.
Well, what bothers us is the absence of reason. I have a feeling that Brockington was murdered. And then, as I said, the fingerprint.
You said there were none.
That's what I mean.
I don't follow.
Oh, come, Richard, that's obvious enough. The complete absence of fingerprints would suggest a careful intruder.
But why an intruder at all?
And there were no prints on the gun.
None?
Now, let me qualify that. There were just a few. Brockington's forefinger shows on the barrel, and his palm is clearly seen on the butt.
So the gun was in Brockington's hand?
Yes.
Well, aren't you satisfied with that?
But he would have had to pick up the gun from a drawer, handle it quite a bit before pulling the trigger. You could hardly expect him to have put on a glove for all these preliminaries, and taking off the glove to make a kill.
Yes, I see. Have you identified the gun?
A German Luger. Commonplace enough.
So it could have been Brockington's own gun?
Of course.
So someone walks into Brockington's lounge, goes to a drawer, takes out a gun with Brockington's initials on the butt, sticks it close to the victim's head and shoots. What is Brockington doing meanwhile? Looking at my play, I presume?
Who said anything about the initials on the gun?
Didn't you?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, well, Brockington carved initials on everything.
Ah, yes. Yes, that's a good point.
You probably noticed a lot of his carving around.
I did indeed. WB. Very artistically done. Well, I must go.
Oh, you're not going already? I haven't given you a drink.
I can only be sociable when I try to be, and just now I haven't the time to try. I have other calls to make.
I hope the others will prove more fruitful.
You've never written a detective play, Richard?
No.
You should. Then I could help you.
Not if you think your work is dull.
But we would concentrate on the more interesting features. Those elusive fractions, remember? 2 and 2 make 3.5, and it's the other half that counts. Think of our little chat. Dull for the most part, but a significant fact emerges.
A fact?
One lonely little detail.
And what was that?
The best detective keeps his secret and throws his proof into the murderer's face in the last act.
You seem convinced that Brockington was murdered.
I didn't say so.
Well, fortunately, I can account for my movements. I was at home last night watching my play.
And you had company, I'm told.
You were told?
The vicar sensed that you would be unwelcome here.
Oh, yes, Bernard Howells was here. They don't see eye to eye.
Who did you have altogether?
Well, since the play was based on our experiences in the prison camp, I thought it would be rather nice if the chaps who were together there...
So that would be Bernard, Gwyn Harris, Albert Thomas. Who else?
John Griffiths. Just the 5 of us.
And George Price would have made the 6th. Ah, well. Good evening, Richard. I'll be seeing you.
Good evening, Inspector.
Albert, wait, I'll turn this off.
I've brought back the plane.
The plane?
You asked me about it last night.
Oh, yes, of course. But there's no hurry, old boy.
I'm just getting some tea.
But, Jean, I'm not staying.
I won't be a minute.
What's all this about a plane?
Just an excuse for coming here.
But why an excuse at all?
Because it looks as if the suicide idea has gone down the drain already.
So what?
A clear case of suicide would have saved us a lot of worry. Anyhow, Enoch Probert has already been to see Richard.
He didn't waste much time.
No. Richard asked me to warn the rest of you to behave as naturally as possible.
It's not very natural for you to bring back my perishing plane for a start. You never return anything.
Well, I had to give Gwen some reason for my coming here. So I said you wanted a plane. You mentioned it last night at the party. That's what I told her.
All right. Forget about the plane. What did Richard tell you?
He thinks that the inspector will call on the rest of us. We are all to admit that we hated Brockington's guts.
But Albert, old boy, all this has been arranged. I haven't forgotten.
I'm doing what I'm told to do. Richard asked me to warn you.
Okay, keep your wool on. Don't be so edgy.
No, that's the kind of thing we have to watch.
Okay, you watch it. I'm feeling fine. I never had any enthusiasm for this plan of ours, but now that Brockington is dead, I feel a deep personal satisfaction.
Mm-hmm. I suppose I'm the edgy type.
I don't think you deserve any tea, Albert, being as you call here about once in a blue moon.
I should come oftener, I know.
One would think that you boys, having gone through so much together, would have some sort of a bond.
Well, maybe we saw too much of each other in Germany.
Friendship wears a bit thin behind the wire fence.
This is my at-home day. Pour out, Gwyn.
This could be the inspector now.
Well, all right, Albert, all right. It's perfectly natural for you to call and see me, even without my plane.
Yes, sir. I suppose it is.
Come in, Inspector, come in. I don't know why you called, but you're very welcome. Move that thing, Gwyn, for the inspector to sit.
Oh, my fault. It's my plane. Gwyn's plane, rather. He nagged me about it last night, and I brought it back.
A bit of a do-it-yourself chap, are you, Albert?
Well, I like working about the house.
Well, with my tools, mainly.
Tea, Inspector?
Well, now, that's most kind of you, Mrs. Harris. Thank you. I dare say you're wondering why I called.
Not really, Inspector. You're probably making inquiries about Bill Brockington. And you know that we spent some time together. You want to know what I thought of him? He was a swine.
Nice cup of tea, Mrs. Harris.
I had no great affection for him either, Inspector.
Could either of you chaps suggest any reason you might have had for taking his life?
Remorse?
He saw his sins piling up before him like a mountain, and he couldn't take it.
Not a very good theory, I'm afraid.
What happened, Inspector? All the talk in the village is that he committed suicide.
We can't stop people talking. My job at the moment is to find out as much as I can about Brockington.
And I'm quite sure you already know what we can tell you. He's squealed on us in prison camp.
Yes, so I've heard. I wonder you chaps let him get away with it.
Oh, but Jerry saw to that. They took him to their bosoms. We never even got a chance to kick his shins.
Then, when the war was over...
Well, you know how it is, Inspector. Tempers cooled. We were too busy looking after ourselves.
Yes, I dare say. Well, boys, just for the record, can you account for your movements last night between, say, 8 and 10 o'clock?
That's easy. We were all at Richard's flat watching his play.
Who do you mean by all?
Well, there were a lot of us. I mean, we were a little gang together in the prison camp, and Richard suggested we should have a little party.
And when was this arranged?
When we all met at the funeral.
At George Price's funeral?
Yes.
It was after the funeral, actually. We all went along to Richard's flat for a drink.
Yes, I see. Then you arranged to meet again to watch the play. That would be about 8 o'clock, huh?
8:15, actually.
What time did you leave here, Gwyn?
I had a flat tire, so I phoned for a car. We left here soon after 8.
A hired car. I told him he had money to burn.
Time is time, G.
Not with you, it isn't.
And you, Albert?
I live pretty near the village. I must have left the house soon after 8. Anyhow, I arrived on time.
Then you all saw the play, had a drink, and went home.
Well, it wasn't much of a drink. The vicar phoned about Brockington.
Well, that's all pretty straightforward, isn't it? Sometimes I think I waste an awful lot of time asking pointless questions. But these things have to be done. Oh, well, thanks for the tea, Mrs. Harris. Quite a nice-looking plane, this. Worth borrowing, eh, Albert?
Gwyn has a splendid kit of tools, and they last forever at the rate he uses them. Albert must have had that plane for 6 months, and Gwyn hasn't missed it.
Well, I'm sorry to have disturbed you.
Good night, Inspector.
Good night, sir.
Good night.
Nice of you to call, Inspector. It made us feel sort of important, if you know what I mean.
There you are, Albert. What's wrong with that?
Nothing. He was very pleasant. Too pleasant.
Enoch Probert was always the same. Everybody says he's a nice chap.
I bet he sends Christmas cards to all the chaps he puts in jail.
We'll have some more tea. Dean, are you bringing more water? I think this is a bit strong.
Is that you, Father?
Yes, it's me. Sorry I'm late, Miss Key.
I thought you were never coming home.
It's a pity I don't get paid overtime, I reckon.
What makes you so late?
I had to stay in charge of the place until Ben Thomas relieved me. Oh, dear. A cup of tea first, Stanrock.
It's all waiting, and I've got a nice piece of pie.
Lovely. Poor old Ben has been dashing about like a scalded cat between one thing and another. There's a lot to be done, I suppose.
It must have been pretty horrible for you.
Well, I've never been on a murder case before, and anything new is interesting, even if it isn't pleasant.
You think Mr. Brockington was murdered, then?
I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have used that word. Let's say that the inspector isn't satisfied that he committed suicide.
Have you got any ideas about who might have done it?
If I had, Anvark, I wouldn't be telling you. One thing you can be sure of, Enoch's got his nose into something.
He called to see Richard, you know.
Did he?
You don't seem surprised.
I'm not surprised at anything, Anne. Not when Detective Inspector Enoch Probert is on the scent.
What possible scent could he be on visiting Richard?
I don't know. It's all very worrying.
Well, if somebody killed Brockington, I can only hope that this case will be one of the inspector's failures.
You mustn't say such things, Anne.
Why not? If anyone has cause to be glad that Brockington's dead, it's me.
Anne.
George was tortured until he went out of his mind, and Brockington was the man responsible. I'm only sorry for one thing. He died too quickly. It took George 5 years.
It's not like you to be hard and bitter. In any case, it's all over and done with, and George is resting in peace.
All right, Father, but don't expect me to waste any sympathy on Mr. William Brockington.
Don't think I'm shedding any tears about Mr. Brockington, but there are things about his death that worry me. George had friends, and Mr. Dukes was only one of them.
But you don't think Richard had anything to do with this, surely?
It's not what I think that matters.
It's a great pity you have to be concerned with this business at all. If only you retired last year,
Don't
when I
let's
wanted...
go over that again.
But if you'd listened to me, you'd have been out of all this. I don't like you being mixed up in it.
I'm giving in my notice at the end of this month.
Is that a promise?
I cross my heart. I think I've had enough now.
Oh, good. I'm jolly glad. Now take off those boots and I'll get a meal. I've got a feeling that this pie...
Before starting, Willis. You pour yourself another cup of tea, and I'll have one too.
Oh, yes, sir.
What do you think of the Gatty Dowell police station, Sergeant? Not exactly Scotland Yard, is it?
Well, the tea is good, sir.
Sure. It always was. I came here as a young constable, you know.
Yes, sir. So I've been told.
John Griffiths. He arrived at the car park just after 8.
That's right, sir. And the car park attendant confirms that.
Car park attendant?
The chappie hanging around for the odd drink, sir.
Bryn Mill Garage. They agreed that Gwyn Harris hired a car and was dropped at Mr. Duke's door at 8:15.
That's right, sir.
And Mr. Dukes himself was seen by Sergeant Maddox Price. He was on his way home to see his play. Perfect alibis. Makes you wonder, eh, Sergeant?
Why they should be so perfect, sir?
That's right. Let me see now. What exactly did P.C. Thomas say about Bernard Howells?
Nothing significant there, sir. Howells just mentioned that he was going to a party in Mr. Duke's flat.
Why should he have done that?
I see what you mean, sir. Rather making a point of it, perhaps.
Could be. But we mustn't let our imagination run away with us, Sergeant Willis.
What I feel... begging your pardon, Inspector.
Go ahead.
I feel we know so little about the dead man.
I feel I know too much about him. I know the whole village too well.
Isn't that an advantage, sir? An intimate knowledge of the people who may be concerned?
Could be, and it could be a bit of a bogey. I find myself making my own pictures. Theory is one thing, Sergeant. Conviction is better, but proof can be damned elusive.
If it was murder, sir, then the whole thing must have been very carefully planned.
Exactly. And I find myself picking out the clever people. In the small village, there are not many to choose from. That's where this intimate knowledge can be a bit of a devil. Might lead me right up the garden path. Now, well, you didn't find anything new in Brockington's place?
Nothing important, sir. We found another gun.
Another gun?
But locked away in a drawer, sir, and inside a deed box.
But you wouldn't call that unimportant, Sergeant Willis?
But it wasn't even loaded, sir.
But, man alive... No, you wouldn't know. Yes, this may be interesting. Where is it?
I left it in the drawer, sir. Should I have...
No, that's all right. You can tell me all I want to know about it. It's a German Luger.
Yes, sir.
With the initials WB carved on the butt?
No, sir. No initials.
Are you quite sure?
Yes, sir, quite sure.
Now, that's a bit odd, isn't it? Or is it? 2 and 2 make 3.5. Add another quarter.
Beg pardon, sir.
Forgive me, Sergeant. I'm just wondering. Well, now, this is a good report, Sergeant. All the salient points, no words wasted.
Thank you, sir.
But I'm afraid you'll have to see them all again.
Yes, Inspector?
I want you to arrange a little meeting. A great place for meeting, Getty Dowell. I'd like an informal chat with Mr. Richard Dukes and his 4 friends.
Very good, sir.
I should see Mr. Dukes first, and I'm sure he'll put his rather splendid lounge at our disposal. And then if he agrees...
I'll help myself to another, Richard.
Yes, please do. I'm not much of a host, boys. Not tonight, anyway. Just take what you want when you want it. Oh, that'll be Albert. Don't pour one out for me, Bernie. Nor me. I'm taking it easy.
Well, same here. We must keep a clear head.
Come in, Albert.
What's all this about?
Well, you know as much as we do, old boy. The inspector wants to see us.
But why?
We shan't know until he tells us.
What do you have, Albert?
A stiff whiskey.
Make it a small one, Bernie, just to be on the safe side.
Am I the only one who's scared?
Well, I dare say we all feel a bit uncomfortable, Albert. But this is no more than we expected, is it?
What do you think he's up to?
Well, looking at the blackest possibility, I'd say that the inspector is developing the idea that one of us may in some way be involved.
I'll say that's black enough.
You need something more than suspicion.
Just you keep your wits about you, Albert.
I won't panic, Bernie. Don't you worry.
I didn't say you would.
Oh, now take it easy, boys. Nobody's worrying about anybody. We know each other pretty well by this time. You were always the edgy one, Albert, but in a crisis you were like a rock.
I'd rather there wasn't a crisis.
Well, just keep calm, boys, and stick strictly to the truth, except for the missing half hour. Now, you might spring a question about the play, but if you're not on shore ground, keep mum. I don't think Enoch will try the technical hitch gag. He's too old a bird for that, but if he does, there wasn't any. I've checked up and the whole thing went like silk.
Detective Sergeant Willis has been pretty busy. He checked up on me at the garage. Perhaps it's just as well that I hired a car.
Why does he want to see us all together? That's the puzzle. I would think he'd do better talking to us one at a time.
He's done that already. He or Willis.
Oh, they've given me a miss, then. You've got such an innocent face, Bernie.
This is it.
Just one more thing, boys. Unless there's any special reason, don't stay here after the inspector. Leave with him or before him. We don't want him to think that we're going to hold an inquest. We're not in the least concerned. Well, best of luck.
Thank you.
This ought to make a good film story, if we get away with it.
We will, don't worry.
Then for the rest of our days, 4 of us will be making guesses about a 5th. Damn funny.
Well,
here we are, Inspector. The culprits, as requested.
And all in good time, too. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Now then, what do you have to drink, Inspector?
Nothing just now, thank you.
All right, as you please.
Well, now, it was good of you boys to come along.
We are agog with curiosity, Inspector. Why have you called us together?
I sometimes like to talk about the cases I'm on. It helps me to keep the facts in some sort of order.
Well, why talk to us?
Come now, Bernard. You know a good deal about this affair. Who better could I talk to? You all knew Brockington. You were all about the village on Thursday night. You might have seen something, even though you may not think it important.
Oh, this sounds like a waste of time, Inspector. I saw nothing unusual anyhow.
All the same, if you don't mind, I'd like to chat.
By all means, chat away.
Well, then, let's first have a look at Brockington. If somebody killed a man, then it was made to look like suicide. And a pretty good job was made of it, too. But the lab boys are uneasy about 1 or 2 things. The fingerprints on the gun and the burn marks on the dead man's temple.
Could you explain that, Inspector?
I will indeed. When the gun is discharged in contact with the temple, there is a tearing of the skin, often in the shape of a cross. Most of the powder will be found inside the wound. But there would be traces of blackening or burning outside the hole. And the hair on the temple would be swollen or burnt.
Yes.
Now, if the weapon is fired more than an inch or so away from the head, then the effect is entirely different.
And you are telling us that this gun was not held tight against the skin?
That's right.
Oh, but, Inspector, what does that prove? It might be usual for a man to put a gun against his temple to shoot himself, but he doesn't have to do that. He could hold the gun 6 inches away.
Yes, quite right. Such a thought had already occurred to us, John.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The point is, if Brockington was killed, then who would want to kill him? Now, had I been a Scotland Yard man sent down to investigate this case, I would probably have looked first into Brockington's affairs. But being more or less a local man, I am helped by the things I know already. My inclination is not to probe into the present, but to recall the past.
I take it that you're referring to our experiences in the prison camp, Inspector.
It's an ugly story, isn't it? George Price was tortured and driven mad, and Brockington was largely responsible.
Rather a long time ago.
Exactly. And the men who might have been concerned about George Price in those days are now staid, settled down, peace-loving citizens. Mind you, it strikes me as being rather odd that Brockington's death should have occurred so soon after George was buried.
Poetic justice.
Even so, one is bound to look for a connection. Could it be that you chaps had something to do with it? Could it be that hate for Brockington had been kept smouldering like a peat bog fire? Could one of you have sought a belated revenge?
Well, don't you think there's a simple answer to that, Inspector? At the time of the shooting, we were all here, watching my play.
Of course. And since the play was based on the experiences common to the lot of you, it seemed a perfectly logical thing for you to do. I know that. Not only do I know it, but lots of other people know it too.
Small village.
Of course. But I have an inquisitive sort of mind. And frankly, I get quite a bit uneasy. I can check with Sergeant Maddock Price that Richard here left the Red Lion just before 8:15. I can check with Constable Ben Thomas that Bernard was coming to this little party, and the bus conductor confirmed that he got off the 8:10 bus. John's car was driven into the car park around about 8:10, and Gwyn got here at 8:15 in a hired car. Never do I remember so many facts so easy to check. Never do I remember a quiet little private party so well publicized. And never have I come across a group of fellows so concerned about being prompt.
The play was on at 8:30.
And you all watched it rather keenly, I gather. John here could even give us the names of the songs that the fellows sang in the opening sequences.
Well, is it odd that we should take a special interest in Richard's plays?
Of course not. But here you are, all assembled at your little party. The facts are so well established that the doubting Thomas in me tells me it's all too good to be true. So what can a poor detective do? He must leave the important things and nose around with the trifling and inconsequent. For instance, I wonder why Albert should have chosen yesterday to return to Gwyn a plane he borrowed 6 months ago. There's nothing in that, except perhaps that Albert needed an excuse to call, maybe to have a chat over recent events. Albert says that Gwyn nagged him about the plane at your party, and if these two had this little friendly argument, then you other fellows would have overheard it. So, I asked Detective Sergeant Willis to make a few inquiries. John is the first man to put Albert in the clear. He remembers the argument quite well. There was just one little error, though. Sergeant Willis referred to the plane as a saw. But that was all right with John. Then, when Willis chats with Richard about this play, blow me down, he makes another mistake and calls it a hammer. But that was all right with Richard. He agrees it was a hammer. And then, when the tale is told to Bernard, the hammer becomes a spirit hammer. But what does it matter? Plain hammer, spirit ever. Albert could have borrowed the lot. I'm only puzzled as to why people should want to tell lies about so unimportant a matter. Oh, I get finicky now. Not so much about the fiction as about the facts. They fit into too neat a pattern. Supposing I ask myself that one of these boys failed to arrive at the party on schedule, and supposing the rest of you knew why he was late, I have ample evidence of the time you all arrived in Gatley Dowell, but no witnesses to say what time you got into this room.
If I may butt in, Inspector, you have 5 such witnesses. We may not remember the times to a minute, but we were all here at 8:20.
And you would swear to that?
Obviously.
Yes, obviously. That's the kind of word that bothers me. Well, I don't have to make up my mind about things tonight. There's still some nosing around to do, and after all, suicide is not impossible. As John very wisely put it, a man doesn't have to hold a gun against his temple to shoot himself, and who knows, he may have had some reason for being careful about his own fingerprints. And what of the gun itself? A German Luger, a popular type of war souvenir. And although it's illegal to keep them, I'm sure there might be several of them in the village. This gun might just as well have been Brockington's as anybody else's. Don't you think so, Richard?
Why not, Inspector? Especially since, as you say, it had Brockington's initials on it.
Yes, I told you that, didn't I? Or did you tell me? But it's a good gun, the Luger. I dare say it can be handled effectively by any man or woman. Oh, well, I must be on my way, gentlemen. Thanks for letting me talk to you. Nor iron bars a cage. This is a script, is it, John? I've never seen a script for a television play. Do you have to write in all the moves and the camera positions, Richard?
Well, only if they affect the development.
You make a shocking mess of the copy, don't you? Why all the doodling?
Well, that's me, I'm afraid. It's a habit of mine.
Mine, too. I wonder what the psychiatrist has to say about doodling. The moment when the mind wanders off the track or meets with an obstacle and the hands take over the activity. I see you have another beauty on page 26. Something really must have puzzled you there. Dissolve, says Richard. Doodle, 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 says John. Not that I noticed you turning the pages.
No.
But this doodle is unmistakably yours, I should say.
Yes, I've been reading the script.
That explains you knowing all the song titles. You're a dark horse, John. I think I'd like to read this myself, now that I've seen the play. May I borrow it, Richard?
Of course.
Unless you other chaps... or maybe you've all read it.
Oh, no, they couldn't have done. John said that he'd like to read the script.
Not before seeing the play, surely?
Oh, yes. Is that so odd, Inspector? We read a book, then see a film, listen to a radio talk, then read it in the listener.
Quite so, John, quite so. I would have thought... But it's a matter of taste, I suppose. Well, I really must go. Anyone coming my way, or would you prefer to hold an inquest?
I'll be glad of a lift, Inspector. They can't hold an inquest without a tragedy, and there doesn't seem to be one, does there?
As you say, brother. As you say.
I'll come along too, Inspector.
Good, yes.
I have my own car, thank you, Inspector, but I want to get home.
John?
Oh, my landlady's gone to a whist drive, so I'm a free man. I'm going to stay for half an hour or so, if Richard doesn't mind.
Of course.
Well, come on, gentlemen. Good night, you two.
I'll see you out.
Oh, thank you very much. It's quite a pleasant evening.
Yes. Oh, my God, I wouldn't call that a very comfortable chat. Pour one for me, will you, John?
I know you asked us to leave, Richard, but...
Oh, that's all right. I'm glad you stayed. Let me just make sure that he has gone off. Yes. Yes, he's gone all right.
Well, here you are.
Oh, thanks.
Well, he seems to be onto something, doesn't he?
Yes. Yes, he's cunning. Very charming, but cunning.
I could kick myself for doodling on that blasted script.
Yes, that was too bad, but I've made a much bigger blunder, John. Listen, there are 2 important things I have to tell you.
Well, what about the others?
Oh, this is only for you. I don't think we can risk having everybody know. Now, about my blunder, I realized it tonight when the inspector spoke about the Lugers. I thought it most fortunate that I had Brockington's gun. It fitted nicely into the plan, but we overlooked a most obvious and important fact. My gun must be in Brockington's place.
Good Lord.
Remember, I told you the guns got mixed up years ago, and I never bothered to change them.
But there's nothing on your gun to identify it as yours.
No, but it's another gun. If the police find it before we do, they'll wonder why Brockington should have 2 guns, and why one should be marked with his initials and the other not.
Oh, this is serious.
It's damn serious. Then the other thing I have to tell you is even more so. This, too, arises out of something the inspector said. He said any man or woman could handle it.
Well, he said that, yeah.
Well, was that as casual as it sounded? Or did he intend us to think that a woman might be involved?
Well, what if he does? We know it was a man's job.
Do we?
Well, good Lord, man, of course we do.
Listen, John. I drew the cross.
You?
I'm telling you this only because I have to. And there's a very special reason. You all left here one at a time, remember?
Mm-hmm.
And since I had drawn the cross, the gun would obviously be left in the glove box. I should have taken it out there and then, but, well, I was upset, very naturally concerned about the job I had to do. Matter of fact, I didn't even have the nerve to look at the thing. In any case, it was just as safe in the glove box as anywhere else.
Well?
Well, I got through my work the next day as best I could. And then, when Anne had gone home, I went to get the gun. It wasn't there.
Well, what did you do?
Well, what could I do? No one else knew that I'd drawn the cross. Whoever had taken the gun was pretty determined to do the job in spite of our plan. I felt pretty sick about passing the buck, but... well, I was quite helpless. How could I know which of you had taken the thing? Well, everything went off as arranged, except that the wrong man did the shooting. I felt he must have been damned determined, and until now I was prepared to let the thing stand.
And now?
And now another possibility creeps into the picture. Any man or woman could handle it.
Good God, you don't mean...
Yes, I do. Anne. There may be nothing at all in this, and I hope to goodness there isn't, but at least we must think about it. Just you and I. Anne wasn't involved in any oath. But she had more reason to hate Brockington than all the rest of us put together.
Oh, but this is quite ridiculous. A woman would never have the nerve. Besides, how could she have known anything about our plan?
Need she have known about it?
No. No, I suppose not. Oh, but how could she have known where to find the gun?
She needn't have known that either. I never used that glove box in the hall. But how can I be sure that Anne doesn't? She could have gone there during the day. Gloves, handbag, lipstick, anything. Seeing the gun could have given her the idea.
No, I can't believe it.
Well, I'm not saying that I believe it, but someone took that gun.
But it's much more probable that one of us took it.
Certainly it is. I'm not trying to persuade you to believe that Anne took that gun. I hope to goodness she didn't. All I say is this. She now comes into the reckoning, and we've got to be damned careful.
Yes, I know what you mean. And you don't want to tell the other?
No, I think not.
Well, what's to be done?
The first job is to get back the other gun.
Break into the house, and...
Well, what else?
The place will be guarded.
I shouldn't think so. Not at this stage. In any case, it's a risk I'll have to take. The suicide theory is rocking a bit even now. If the police find this other gun, it goes for a Burton.
Yes, I think you're right. Well, when do we meet?
I don't think there's any point in both of us going.
Well, I'll be the lookout. After midnight, I should say.
We'll make it 12:30.
So how do we get in?
That's something we'll have to find out.
Well, I think I could use another whiskey. You all right, John? Fine.
Now then, I hope I remember the geography of this place. Yes, this must be the door. I hope to goodness it isn't locked.
What's that?
What?
I thought I heard something.
I don't think we're very good at this sort of thing. John, you hold the torch.
Right.
That's fine. Here we go. Close the door quietly, and I'll see if the curtains are properly drawn.
Okay? Yes, I think so.
Now then, we'll try all the drawers first, I should think.
What if they're locked?
Well, we'll try all the open ones before we start forcing anything. No, there's nothing in this one anyhow.
Richard, somebody's in this room. Behind the curtains.
What should we do? Wait. I'll see who it is. Keep the light off me and on the curtains.
Put out that light, you fool. Draw the curtains.
Albert, what the hell are you doing here, Albert?
If you're sure those curtains are drawn tight, Richard, we can have the torch on again.
What's all this about, Albert?
I might ask you the same question.
We've got a little job to do.
I'm probably on the same job. You're looking for your own gun, aren't you, Richard?
Great minds think alike. When did this idea occur to you?
I thought of it quite suddenly when Probert was delivering his sermon. Isn't it odd how one can overlook the simplest things? If Richard had Brockington's gun, then Brockington must have Richard's.
So you came to get it?
I was afraid that the idea might not occur to anyone else, and there was no time for a consultation. If the police pick up this other gun, no suicide.
Well, let's find it and get out of here. Where have you looked, Albert?
I was nearly through with that cupboard.
Right, and you have your own torch?
Yeah.
Well, try not to disturb anything. John, keep the light on the bureau.
I've got it, boys. I've got it. Good. Let's go.
What a bit of luck. How did you find those curtains, Albert?
They were open. I drew them.
Right. Now then, boys, take it easy. Have a good look round to see that nothing is disturbed. And then we'll put out the torches and open the curtain.
Good evening, gentlemen. You looking for something? Put on the light, will you, Sergeant? I'm sure we'll be much more cozy if we can see each other. Ah, better. Sergeant Maddox Price, perhaps you'll stand for the door. You know Detective Sergeant Willis? But there, of course you do. Well, now then, gentlemen, it's not exactly usual for respectable men to call uninvited at this time of the night, especially when the householder is not in residence. But I'm sure you have a perfectly logical explanation for being here.
Have you, Inspector?
Oh, yes. I was waiting for you.
I'm sure you'll want to tell us the full story.
Certainly, Richard. I owe it to you. I find it so very frustrating to have strong feelings about a thing and have no facts to support them. So that when Detective Sergeant Willis found that gun in a drawer, I asked him to leave it there. You see, I had this feeling that somebody else might be interested in the weapon. So, in my little chat with you gentlemen, I mentioned the popularity of this particular sort of war souvenir.
And, of course, you have some sort of reason for all this, Inspector?
Certainly. I had a hunch that you chaps were concerned with Brockington's death. There was little proof in support of such a hunch, but there were one or two useful little pointers. John's knowledge of the script, for one thing. I wondered why John should have wanted to read your play before the transmission, Richard. He could have read it out of interest, of course, but on the other hand, he could have wanted to familiarize himself with the parts he might not see. The beginning, for instance. And not only John, there might have been other scripts and other readers. And that's what I suggest happened, gentlemen. One of you came late to your party. The problem is, which of you? Not that this matters as much as you may think. If, as I suspect, you were all involved in some sort of scheme, then the man who might have pulled the trigger is no more guilty than the rest. You were all accessories before the facts, which could make things rather uncomfortable.
Forgive my stupidity, Inspector, but I'm a little hazy on the simple question of proof. Your theory is quite romantic, if not very practical. I take it you have some sort of support for what you say?
My dear Richard, what better proof can I have than your nocturnal visiting? Dear me, I can congratulate myself. So also does Sergeant Willis. We spent hours searching for the usual clues, the print of the rubber heel, the lady's lipstick, the hairpin on the carpet, but we found nothing of interest. What have we now? 3 men all looking for a gun. Sure, your interest in the gun is quite easy to understand, isn't it? Brockington would have used his own gun if he wanted to shoot himself.
You don't think it possible that he should have had 2 guns?
Quite possible. But why, then, are you worried about the one you've just found? I think we're moving along very nicely, gentlemen. Indeed, I might even warn you at this stage that anything you say will be taken down and could be used in evidence. And I think I'd leave it at that for tonight.
You're not making any charge?
Not at the moment. I'm sure I can rely on your good sense not to leave Gately Dowell or do anything silly. In the meantime, I shall make further inquiries.
What further inquiries?
Oh, come now, John. We found out a good deal, but we don't know the full story.
Then you can know it now. I shot him.
Really?
I'll make a full statement here and now. I shot Brockington.
I see. And you brought along your friend Richard tonight to help you recover some of the evidence.
If you like to put it like that.
Only to discover that Albert got here before you.
We were all in it, of course. We decided that Brockington had to be killed.
When did you decide this?
5 years ago.
Yes, I thought it might be something like that. Some silly oath, I suppose.
Not necessarily silly.
So you 5 fellows agreed to do this together? No one else involved?
Of course not. Well, obviously not.
Don't get too enthusiastic, John. Overemphasis always makes me suspicious.
Well, the only thing that matters now is that I did the job.
You mean you were chosen to do it?
Put it that way if you wish.
What of the two guns?
Well, they were accidentally exchanged some years ago. Brockington had carved his initials on his own gun, so it was the perfect weapon. I was given this gun, or rather I took it. I came along here and found him watching the television. I put the muzzle as near as I could to his temple, and I pulled the trigger.
And then you placed the gun in the dead man's hand and went along to join the party.
Yes.
And the other members of the party knowing what you'd done?
No.
No?
No, we drew lots. No one was to know who did the shooting. I was the unlucky one.
So you were all late for the play, is that it?
Half an hour late.
So you came here to shoot Brockington with his own gun?
Yes.
A gun which could easily have been identified as his. The initials WB carved on the butt.
That's right.
Then I wonder who could have rubbed off those carved initials. Sergeant Willis, the gun, if you please.
Yes, sir.
This is the gun which killed Brockington. No initials.
I can explain that.
You mean you thought of another story?
No, I got confused. Well, who wouldn't be? When I got home from the party, I put the gun away in the same drawer as my own gun. I must have got them mixed up.
So you got a Luger, too?
We all had one.
And you accidentally changed your gun for Brockington's and brought the wrong one here to shoot him?
Yes.
Fair enough. Then you will be able to bring me Brockington's gun in the morning.
Well, yes, certainly.
Whom are you protecting, John?
No one. I shot him myself.
Then where is Brockington's gun?
Here it is.
Well, another visitor. Don't close the door, Sergeant Price. We never know who's going to call. Come in, Bernard, come in. My speech on the popularity of Lugers must have been most effective. Put it on the table, Bernard. We have quite a collection. Very well, Bernard. Your turn. You shot Brockington, did you?
No, he committed suicide.
That brings us back to where we started. Go on.
We've heard most of the story. We drew lots. But I was unlucky. I wanted to draw that cross, and I didn't. I hated the swine. So on my way out from the party, I took the gun. The letters are there, plain enough for you to see. WB. What is the privilege of pulling the trigger? I came in at the time arranged. But when I got to this room, Brockington was lying on the floor with a gun in his hand. I could see that he was dead.
You swear to that?
Yes.
But that doesn't affect my story. I came here before Bernie.
And shot your victim with a gun that Bernie carried.
No, with my own gun.
You're getting awfully mixed up, John. Bernard here I can believe because he produces the evidence. Bernard has a sound story. I can accept it. Up to a point. There's just one little detail I cannot accept. I happen to believe that Brockington was murdered.
And I tell you that I shot him. What more do you want?
I don't believe you, John. And I repeat my question. Whom do you think you're protecting? If this is to be your attitude, I shall have to ask myself the very obvious question. Who else had reason to hate Brockington?
Meaning George's widow, I suppose.
You're very fond of Anne, aren't you, John? And why shouldn't you be? She's a very charming girl. Why shouldn't you protect her if you feel that she needs?
Anne is in no way involved. All my friends here will agree that we planned this thing.
And a very clever plan it was. Sergeant Willis and I are very proud to have discovered the truth of it. But it didn't work out, did it? Neither of you killed him, and we shall have to look elsewhere.
There's no need to argue about this anymore. Perhaps you'll allow me to say a word, Inspector?
By all means, Sergeant Price. I always think that the local officer...
That air gun on the table, the one you found in Brockington's hand, belongs to me. It was one of the few things that George brought back with him. I borrowed it for a moment.
Now, just a moment, Sergeant.
No, Inspector, you stay where you are for a few minutes, if you please. I don't fancy a lifetime in jail. Stay where you are, Sergeant Willis. I don't want to use this on anyone but myself, so don't tempt me.
Now, Maddox, listen to me for a minute, will you?
One thing I'm sorry about, Inspector, that this should have happened when I'm still in the force. If I'd retired when my time was up as Aaron wanted me to, I'd feel a lot happier. As for the other thing, believe me, Inspector, I have no regrets. I always knew I would do it if George died before me, and I had no trouble at all to make up my mind when the time came. Of course, I didn't know about what Mr. Dukes and the others were planning, and let me tell you, Inspector, it warmed my heart to hear about it. Thank you, gentlemen, but It was my job, see? Now, if you'll just give me a minute...
Now, don't be a fool, Maddox. Let's look after you and take you to trial. You're only one of the accessories, and you can plead the strongest possible provocation.
I think I know what's best.
You don't think we'd leave a loaded gun around, do you, Sergeant? Here's the clip.
Not loaded?
Take him down to the station, Willis. P.C. Bowen is outside, and he'll come with you. He can make a statement, but I'd like to check it before we charge him.
Yes, sir. Come along, Sergeant.
Willis.
Yes, sir?
Take good care of him.
I will, sir.
Well, good night, gentlemen, and thank you again.
We'll be seeing you, Maddox. Don't you worry. We're all in this together.
Good night.
Well, quite a night. I don't think I need you any further, gentlemen.
Good night, all. Good night, Inspector.
Good night. Life isn't as tidy as one of your plays, Richard.
No. No, it isn't, is it? Poor old Maddox.
Poor old Maddox, indeed. You got your car?
No.
Well, it's a nice night for a stroll.
You have been listening to Murder on the Agenda by Einan Evans. The part of Richard Dukes was played by Hugh David, Sergeant Maddox Price, Norman Wynne, John Griffiths by Richard Webb, Anne Price by Margaret John, Bernard Howells by John Darren, Albert Thomas by Charles Morgan, Matty Thomas by Madge Jones, Gwyn Harries by Henry Thomas, Inspector Enoch Probert, Einan Evans, Jean by Anita Morgan, P.C. Willis, Brenna Jenkins, Josh by George David, and the Vicar, Dilwyn Owen. Other voices heard were those of Yeyan Rhys Williams and D.L. Davies. The program, which was recorded, was produced by John Griffiths.